The monstrous Grand Duke, known for his gloomy disposition, actually married a delicate young lady. However, on their wedding night, his wife was shackled and imprisoned by him. The universally revered war hero, Balar, was in fact also a homicidal maniac who struck fear into people's hearts. At the age of 9, he single-handedly buried his father, who died in battle. For 2 years, he laid in wait beside his father's killer. On the day he gained his enemy's trust, he cut him down without hesitation. Although this incident was always criticized by people, Balar paid it no mind at all. He then went on to live on the battlefield for 16 long years. He was upright and honorable, leading the empire to victory in every war. But he had a dark secret. During every full moon, he would slaughter indiscriminately, unable to distinguish friend from foe. And Silent was an unfortunate woman. Today, she married the homicidal maniac Balar. In fact, by simply submitting a marriage proposal, the Grand Duke could have married a princess or another noble. But he specifically chose the noble Lady Silent, who had no parents and only a title. Was it because of love at first sight, or because she was a peerless beauty? It was neither. Balar simply wanted a woman whose family wouldn't come looking for her even if she disappeared. Because Balar planned to lock his newlywed wife in a room for the rest of her life on their wedding night. Why did Yume know all this? Because this plot was from a novel she had just read. The scary part was that she had stopped reading it halfway through because the novel was dropped. After the wedding ceremony, Yume still hadn't left the room. The wedding was over by the time she woke up. Yume actually wanted to escape, but the northern winds were harsh, and she wasn't familiar with the terrain of the north. Silent's body was unusually delicate. She would probably faint as soon as she stepped outside. But if she didn't escape today, Yume would spend the rest of her life in confinement. Just then, the door to the room suddenly opened. Footsteps drew closer and closer to the bed. Could it be that Balar had entered the bedroom? Yume scrambled up from the bed. She wanted to see if the legendary monster Grand Duke was as terrifying as described in the book. However, the moment Balar stood before her, she only felt that he was really huge. "What are you doing over there?" Balar frowned and looked impatiently at his wife. "I'm sorry, I suddenly fell asleep. I'll get out of your way right now." Basler's gaze shifted, and a frightened Yume quickly scurried to the other side of the bed. With Balar in the bedroom, it would probably be very difficult to escape. The man lit the kerosene lamp. Yume was about to say something else, but his one word, sleep, made her obediently shut her mouth. Yume lay down, trembling as she pulled the small blanket over herself. The man was indeed as tall as a bear, but with looks like that, she was still stunned by his beauty. So why in the original story did Silent faint just from looking at his face? As soon as Yume closed her eyes, a wave of drowsiness hit her. Balar sat at the corner of the bed, quietly watching her fall asleep, but his tightly clenched fist betrayed his inner state. He was actually nervous. On her first day as the female lead of this possessive story, she saw her monster husband's true face and almost fainted from shock. It turned out the man was incredibly handsome in the light. Yume woke up naturally by the side of the bed. The spot beside her was completely cold. It seemed her monster husband had slept elsewhere. But wasn't that too lonely for a wedding night? Could it be that the possessive male lead from the novel was fake? So why do they sleep separately? Yume looked up at the bright living room next to them, and to her surprise, her missing monster husband was sitting right there. His handsome, stern face looked even more dashing under the sunlight. For a moment, Yume was stunned by his handsomeness. But why did her open nightgown feel so strange? What? I'm already married. A bashful Yume hid under the covers. It felt like the man had seen her entire chest. But what can I do? I'm married, and it's a real marriage. I married the monster Grand Duke just yesterday. Most people didn't dare to meet his gaze. Even his subordinates had a very poor impression of him. It was impossible that any woman would marry him. But this pitiful woman, Yume, still married him. Balar recalled the first time he saw the girl yesterday. She was like a little rabbit, satisfied with his appearance. Just now, she had the exact same expression as yesterday. I went elsewhere since the room was quiet, so she's not afraid of me. She meets my gaze as if I were an ordinary person. Balar thought over and over about the behavior of his strange wife. Finally, he impatiently left the room. Yume wrapped herself up tightly like a silkworm. Hearing the sound of him leaving, she cheerfully got out of bed. The Grand Duke must have left to make it convenient for me to change clothes. It seems he's much gentler than described in the book. However, he couldn't be going to prepare some strange tools. Could he? If so, I'm doomed. But probably not. Yume casually picked up a dress to put on, but because of the strange style, she didn't know how to wear it. She regretted not reading more of the novel before. Just then, Balar suddenly strode back in. A shy Yume dodged as the man walked to the bedside. He actually took out a pouch. Drops of red liquid fell onto the blanket. Yume was so scared she collapsed onto the floor. Is that blood? Is he summoning a demon? This isn't a game of hide and seek. It's kill the cat. Am I the sacrifice? The floor is cold. You could take my hand. At that moment, Balar gentlemanly offered her a hand. Yume was stunned again, completely forgetting her earlier fear. Thank you. Do you want me to help you get dressed? Of course you can. It turned out her monster husband's hands were large and thick, surprisingly as strong as a bear's, and exuding masculine charm. Meanwhile, Yume was lost in a woman's bashfulness. But Balar, looking at her beautiful back, was flustered. So fair and small, if my hand were to touch it, it seems like it would shatter with a single pinch. Yume turned to look at her unusually quiet husband. As a result, Balar got nervous and pulled too hard, yanking out a long piece of the ribbon. Fortunately, the maid Anna arrived just in time. Your Highness, I will help the Grand Duchess get dressed. Please rest assured. Hearing this, Yume was bubbling with joy. She had finally found someone reliable. She excitedly walked over to Anna's side. The dress ribbon left Basler's hand. His hand, now empty, felt incredibly hollow. Balar didn't like this strange feeling. He wanted to lock the door forever. That way, the woman wouldn't escape his grasp. After becoming the female lead of this possessive story, she chose to escape on the second day. Because her monster husband, who appeared cold and ascetic on the surface, was actually a complete psycho. The moment he came into contact with his wife's frail body, his violent, imprisoning instincts surged wildly. Balar paranoidly wanted to lock the door so that his wife would belong only to him. But when he saw the beautiful Yume again, he was, not surprisingly, once again attracted by her adorably clueless appearance. He pretended to be calm as he passed by her, instructed Anna to prepare lunch for the two of them, and then strangely left the room with Anna. Yume didn't know what the man was running from, but thinking of the male lead's insane paranoia in the book made her incredibly nervous. She quickly opened the window and took deep breaths of fresh air. In the book, on the first day of Siloan's marriage, she fainted. When she woke up again, she was imprisoned in the room. Balar announced to the public that he would focus on preparing for the enemy and would spend most of his time in the ducal manor. Whenever he saw Siloan, he would reveal a beast-like madness, completely ignoring the fear in the 20-year-old girl's eyes, perversely satisfying his own cosplay fetish. But yesterday, Yume had actually survived the first night safely. This was a good thing for her. But to be honest, if she didn't escape, her safety was only temporary. But looking at the snow-covered ground lashed by the cold wind, Yume could only helplessly miss her chance to escape. I'm coming in. Balar came to the room once again. His greeting received no response. He was suddenly alarmed. He anxiously burst through the door. To his surprise, his wife was just sitting quietly by the window, looking into the distance. Although nothing had happened, her behavior was undoubtedly abnormal. Yume was from the warm south. Logically, she should hate the cold weather. Balar walked towards his wife step by step. Just then, Yume happened to turn around. The two of them looked directly at each other. In fact, when meeting the man's sharp eyes, Yume would instinctively feel an overwhelming fear. However, the man's signature handsome face was her type. You haven't eaten lunch yet. Aren't you hungry? Balar gently asked his delicate little wife. Seeing her shy gaze, he became even more certain in his heart that she wasn't afraid of him. In Yume's eyes, the man's current state was no different from a big lion with its fur standing on end. She wanted to laugh just thinking about his fierce yet Sundara-like appearance, but she held back her laughter. Finally, unable to hold it in, she just let out all her laughter at once. Seeing his wife's sudden change, Balar foolishly thought that Yume liked people asking if she was hungry. But he couldn't be blamed for it. It was really because Balar, who had lived on the battlefield since childhood, had never had the chance to interact with the species known as female. Yume held up her heavy dress and obediently followed behind Balar. She was wearing too many clothes, making it a bit difficult to walk. But the thought that the Grand Duke had prepared them made Yume's heart bubble with sweetness. However, just then, Balar, who was walking ahead, suddenly stopped. This startled Yume. She thought she had annoyed him by walking too slowly. Oh my god, what do I do? Just as Yume's mind was racing, Balar extended an arm to her. Turns out I was overthinking it. But what's with his elbow? Does he want me to hold on to him? Or am I overthinking it? and he's just retracting his arm. Never mind, I'll just pretend I didn't see it. Balar stared intently at his wife. His adjutant once said that when a woman is wearing uncomfortable clothing, it is basic etiquette for a man to escort her. Unless they hate him to death, most wouldn't refuse an escort. Hate him to death. Although we can't be considered that close, she and I are husband and wife now. Most importantly, she isn't afraid of me like others are. What on earth am I thinking? I only married her to have a child anyway. Why do I care so much? Forget it, I should just lock her up. Balar thought for a moment, then retracted his arm and continued walking forward. However, at that moment, an accident happened. Yume accidentally tripped on a bump on the ground, and her body landed precisely on top of Balar. Yume felt the man's solid body, her face flushing red with embarrassment. Balar held his wife's waist, his heart pounding. How could her waist be so thin, lighter than a rabbit? It seems I need to feed her more before winter comes to fatten up the rabbit meat. Then I'll decorate the room for her. And then I won't let her out. Yume, who was still ashamed of her fall, had no idea that her monster husband was planning to lock her up. He is the monster Grand Duke feared by the world. Cold-bloodedness is in his genes. However, the moment he held his delicate little wife, his cold heart began to pound wildly. Balar didn't want to admit this subtle flutter in his heart. After all, a monster like him had no need for love. However, this way of thinking was wrong from the start. According to the novel's plot, Balar, who had never experienced love in his entire life, looked back on his life as it was fading away and realized that he himself was the most pitiful person. His parents died early, and he spent his whole life in solitude. And Siluan, whom he had married, developed Stockholm Syndrome due to his perverse imprisonment. Although it's unknown why she fell in love. The only thing certain is that Siluan fell in love with Balar. As for Balar, he felt nothing for her. He had married her in the first place only to produce an heir. At first, Yume couldn't understand this kind of love either. But in that instant when she fell, the panic in Basler's eyes and his warm embrace surprisingly made her heart flutter wildly. It was probably the man's firm thighs and chest, enhanced by that faint, alluring scent. But why would Balar wear perfume? Was it because he deliberately dressed up to meet me? If so, I think I could fall in love with a man like that. Not just because he's my ideal type, but because he himself is truly a friendly, gentlemanly, and charmingly handsome man. Balar followed closely behind Yume, his eyes fixed on her every move. Though she looked like she could collapse at any moment, she took every step with grace. It's so warm here, Balar. I guess Anna prepared the fireplace in the room. Hearing Yume's voice, Balar said nothing, but gently extended his arm to her. If you find it inconvenient to walk, you can hold my arm. Take my hand. Yume stared blankly at Balar. So he was a considerate person too. A short while later, the two of them came outside. Seeing such a beautiful snowy landscape, Yume was overjoyed. She ran happily around the castle. Balar couldn't believe that Yume would find such a desolate scene surprisingly likable. In his view, one would have to wait until at least spring to see beautiful scenery. But looking at his little wife's sweet smile, for a moment, he also felt that this scenery was a bit nice. But in his heart, he wanted more. He hoped his little wife's gaze would always be on him. He was jealous. Strolling through such a charming and lazy landscape, Yume seemed to have rediscovered the joy she felt when working at the theater. Her youthful dream was so passionate, fantasizing about one day taking the stage in Hollywood. But the thought of never being able to return to her original world made Yume feel utterly depressed. If, like in the original story, she was imprisoned by Balar until her death, then all this beautiful scenery would be meaningless. So if she could make Balar fall in love with her, the ending would probably be different. But I've never been in a relationship before. How do I get into the mood for romance? In the distance, Balar saw the fluctuations in Yume's mood and started to overthink again. Is she bored because of the desolate castle? Or is she depressed after realizing her husband is a monster? But Balar didn't want to see any of that. He strode towards Yume, pulled her frail body into his arms, and spoke to his little wife in a cold tone. We should go inside now. Realizing his own strange action, Balar immediately let go of his little wife, turned with a cold expression, and strode away. However, a single sentence from his little wife soothed his volatile temper. Can I borrow your arm? Hearing this, Balar actually began to make excuses for his little wife. No, that's not it. She's only feeling down because she's been in the cold for too long. Besides, after walking for so long, she must be exhausted. Balar shyly imagined the scene of his little wife falling. At that time, he would definitely tell Yume it's okay. I will always catch you. If necessary, he would hold her tightly. Yume took his arm, completely unaware of her husband's extensive inner monologue. They returned to the room. No one spoke a word on the way. The atmosphere was a bit awkward. Yume felt she needed to say something. She gathered her courage and spoke to Balar. "It's really peaceful, isn't it?" Basler's face fell, not showing the same joy as her. "I really like taking walks in beautiful places. I think we could go for walks together often." Listening to the girl's aspirations for her life, Balar felt that things were getting more and more out of hand. From the beginning, he had only married the girl to have a child. It would be reasonable to lock Yume in her room. So how did things turn out like this? Was it because of the girl's eyes? "As soon as I meet her eyes, I'm drawn to her. But no, she's just for bearing my children." "Balar." Yume looked at the man and sweetly called his name. Basler's heart warmed. Forget it. He was tired today. He'd lock her up tomorrow. The man had thick dark circles under his eyes. As soon as he closed his eyes, he would remember his little wife's brilliant smile and then perversely want to imprison her. The warm blankets and the quiet room allowed Yume to deeply enjoy a good sleep by herself. It was getting late. Anna arrived at the room on time. "My lady, are you ready to get up?" The respectful tone felt particularly awkward to Yume. Besides, Anna was clearly much older than her. She subconsciously told Anna to just treat her like a normal person. However, Anna asked her in return if she was like this with everyone. Her serious expression showed that she cared a lot. Yume felt a bit flustered. "I don't know if you already know, but I'm an ordinary person with no background. In terms of social etiquette, I still have a lot to learn. I hope you can help me." Based on her performance just now, Anna didn't doubt she was telling the truth. However, her tone and demeanor were quite good. In that case, with a little teaching, Yume would learn very well. "My lady, let's have breakfast first." After eating, Yume started to get bored. Lying in bed, she didn't know what she could do. But on second thought, it seemed no one had forbidden her from leaving the room. "Maybe I can go outside and get some sun. If I stay in the room, I'll surely die of depression." Yume strode towards the door, only to run into Anna. "Hello, this is Anna. May I ask where the lady is going?" Seeing Anna's expressionless face, Yume couldn't help but tremble, but the desire to go out overcame her fear. "I want to go for a walk outside. If I have to stay in my room all the time, I think I'll get depressed. Is that my lunch?" "My lady, do you have any particular favorite foods?" "But it will be troublesome to take it outside. If my lady insists on going out, I can prepare some small snacks for you. You can eat them at a table in the hallway outside. I think that would be a wonderful experience." "Really? Then let's go now." Looking at the abundant snacks and tea on the table, Yume couldn't help but praise, "This is wonderful." She prepared to pick up her knife and fork to start eating. But her lack of table manners started to become a problem again. But thinking about it, with Anna standing right there, she would probably point out any impropriety. Anna was actually also conflicted about whether to help or not. After all, she had always followed the Grand Duke's orders. The Grand Duke had said long ago that he would bring back a woman to marry. That woman was only for bearing an heir. Whether a woman living in the castle needed to learn these things was something Anna was unsure of. But after the wedding night, the Duke started to change. To protect Yume from outside gossip, he even sprinkled animal blood on the sheets. Even though he knew she would definitely see through it, he still did it. Anna had reason to believe that Yume would be the Duke's variable. She would probably bring him light. "Anna, is there anything I should be aware of before going out?" Yume blinked her puppy dog eyes and looked expectantly at Anna. Only then did Anna realize that the lady was really going outside. "My lady, I will follow you at all times." "All right, so I still can't be alone." Balar lowered his head in frustration. He had wanted to lock his little wife up for no reason. But the thought that she might be frightened made him decide to think of a good reason to confine her. Balar was about to break down over his own strange thoughts. He kept telling himself that Yume was just a plaything, a tool to bear his children. But the thought of that brilliant smile made him reluctant again. He paced around the room anxiously. His gaze shifted outside, and he suddenly saw Yume. She and Anna seemed to be chatting happily. Then they started to leave the castle and head outside. Balar had a feeling that Yume was trying to escape. Why on earth would she want to escape? Anna seems to be with her, so she shouldn't be able to get away. But what if Yume manages to shake Anna off in a crowded place? Balar couldn't afford any mistakes. He had to catch Yume. The moment his wife left his sight, his mood became utterly gloomy. He paranoidly wanted to drag the girl back. He quietly tailed them from behind. His wife, Yume, was completely oblivious, happily experiencing this dreamlike world. The bustling streets were full of life. She seemed to have found the joy of traveling. Perhaps this world wasn't too closely related to the novel. After all, Yume had experienced firsthand that Balar wasn't as paranoid and crazy as in the plot, but was actually approachable. Yesterday, he had even been a gentleman and held her hand while walking. Since she had never been in a relationship, Yume honestly didn't know if this was flirting. But the novel had portrayed Basler's character as too severe. For a moment, Yume felt like she was daydreaming. For now, she just hadn't been locked up yet. Basler's nature was unchangeable, but selfishly, she still wanted to live a good life with him. After all, he was a rare ideal type for her. Yume sat to one side, while Anna stood beside her. She felt a little bad for her. She waved at Anna. "Don't just stand there. Come sit next to me." Anna was flattered. She verbally agreed, all right, but her eyes remained fixed on the Grand Duke's chambers in the corner. When he discovered Yume's act of going out for a walk, Balar stubbornly believed that she wanted to escape. His agitated heart became utterly gloomy. He chased after her in a hurry. At this moment, the desire to lock up Yume reached its peak. However, as a royal knight, Anna's limbs and senses were much more agile than an ordinary person's. The moment Balar caught up, she already knew the Duke was tailing them. Balar chose to keep a certain distance from them. This way, if anything bad happened, he could rush over immediately. But he actually had a selfish motive. If he saw Yume show even a hint of wanting to escape, Balar would use it as an excuse to drag her back to the castle and tie her up. But from dawn until dusk, Yume showed no such signs. Balar couldn't understand why she wanted to come out. Could she be out scouting an escape route in advance? Watching the sun about to set, Balar finally decided to head back. The poor vice captain ended up doing all his work. After returning to her room, Yume took a refreshing bath. After a walk and a bath today, all that was left was dinner. Just then, there was a knock on the door. Yume thought it was Anna, who knew that the moment they saw each other, both of them panicked. A startled Yume immediately shut the door, while Balar, standing by the door, became unusually agitated. "I thought that after I finished dinner and bathed, Yume would be about done too. I even specially prepared a small gift for her. Yume already dislikes me. Now she'll definitely detest me even more." Fortunately, Anna arrived at the door just in time. Yume didn't feel too good either. "I just spoke to him in such a commanding tone. If I angered him, it would be too late if he locked me up. Please give me another chance." Balar entered the room again and saw Yume kneeling strangely on the floor. Although it was a strange gesture, Balar didn't overthink it. He thoughtfully placed the small blanket over Yume's shoulders. His grand gesture at this moment nearly captivated Yume. Whenever his wife was out of his sight, he couldn't control the urge to imprison her. But seeing his wife's face as dazzling as the sun, his heart began to waver again. But this still couldn't dispel the thought of imprisoning her. So, he set a beautiful trap for Yume. Balar thoughtfully draped the small blanket over his wife. Yume's heart felt warm. "Thank you for being so kind to me." The bloodthirsty Balar heard such an evaluation from someone else for the first time. Although there were some discrepancies, fortunately, his image in Yume's heart was very good, which was undoubtedly a good thing. Balar replied to Yume, feigning composure. "It's nothing. It's not a big deal." Then he shyly got up and said he would wait outside. "Let's have dinner together tonight." Eating together, Yume's cheeks flushed. This was the first time they had eaten together. Moreover, there was no such scene in the original story. Yume suspected the man wanted her to make a mistake so he could use it as an excuse to lock her up. With her mind preoccupied, Yume completely ignored Balar across from her. Basler's expression turned fierce as he sulked. Yume didn't know what was happening and just gave him a sweet smile. Unexpectedly, Basler's anger vanished in an instant. What is the origin of this woman? No one has ever dared to meet my gaze so nonchalantly like her. Balar pushed the long-prepared gift towards Yume. "What is this? Can I open it and see?" "It's a gift for you. You can decide for yourself." The box opened, and inside was a dazzling gemstone necklace. Yume was bubbling with joy. She couldn't believe it was a gift for her. Although Balar had no reason to give her a gift, this was the first gift Yume had ever received from the opposite sex in her life. She was truly warmed by Balar once again. He seemed to be genuinely trying to treat her well. It was indeed very different from the original story. Maybe she could really live a good life with him. Yume could already see hope for her future life. Balar was very satisfied with his wife's reaction. She was completely unguarded against his act of giving a gift. But that thing had been tampered with. Long before giving it to her, he had secretly told the pawnbroker the jewelry's serial number. If anyone came to sell it, the pawnbroker was to give them 1,000 gold coins and then immediately inform him. After he caught the escaping Yume, he he would throw the evidence at her. Then, he could openly imprison her. That way, he could see her crying face every day. Time came to the next day. Yume, as expected, left the castle. Everything was proceeding in the right direction. At this moment, the smile never left Basler's lips. He was just waiting for Yume, this big fish, to take the bait. The vice captain, at the side, saw the change in Balar. At the age of 9, he disguised himself as a war orphan and infiltrated the enemy camp. In just 2 short years, he took his enemy's head. After recovering, he immediately returned to the battlefield. It seems that now, the Lord Commander is truly about to have his own spring. Balar followed Yume the whole way, but she only bought 2 apples, some chicken skewers, and a rough leather coin purse. Balar was about to explode with anger at her. If she wanted to escape, these things were completely useless. The commoners were constantly chattering beside him, but in order to get leverage on Yume, he endured it all, pretending not to hear. But his wife refused to show her true colors. He was going crazy. Just then, Yume suddenly stopped and stared blankly at a small stall. Is it now? However, when she picked up a woven bag, Basler's expectant gaze immediately dimmed. What's the use of that small bag? You should buy one that can be slung over the shoulder. That way, you can carry a lot of things. Yume then went to a shoe store. Balar thought she would buy a pair of low-heeled shoes for swift walking this time. Who knew she walked away without even a second glance? Basler's mood soured to the extreme. What on earth is this woman doing? If she really wanted to buy things, why did she run out on the very first day she received the gift? And what is she so happy about? Clearly, my eyes haven't left her for a second, yet I don't know why she's smiling. Because his wife's smile had nothing to do with him, the Black Bear Grand Duke was filled with jealousy. The man headed to his wife's room with a gift, only to find his wife sneaking out. Is she trying to escape again? He was so angry his hair stood on end, and he quietly followed behind. Who knew his wife would suddenly stop? Yume put the chicken skewer in her hand into her mouth. The taste was so good. With smacking lips, her small mouth finished the entire large skewer. Just then, a gust of wind blew her hair about. She quickly huddled up, shivering. It's so cold. Suddenly, the image of Balar appeared in her mind. At that time, he had placed the small blanket on her. The touch was so warm, and his arm was so sturdy when she grabbed it. It seemed like her whole body could lean on him without any problem. She didn't know when it started, but she would smile whenever she thought of Balar. In the book, his character was destined for loneliness. And in reality, Yume was the same. Perhaps this is why the two of us met and became husband and wife. Maybe I can live a good life with him. Balar walked towards Yume's room with a gift box. Thinking of yesterday's awkward scene, he decided to slow down and go slowly. His cheeks felt hot. He thought that even if it was like yesterday, and he walked in on his wife bathing, he wouldn't mind. However, as he was about to enter the room, Yume popped out of the room like a little hamster. Balar thought she was trying to escape and was instantly furious. He huffily tailed her the whole way. Who was she dressing up for? Whose room is she going to this late? His resentful little expression was too much to look at. Damn it, that's my room. Balar paced around anxiously. Suddenly, he looked towards Yume's room. His heart started pounding wildly. Although the act of entering someone's room without permission was very presumptuous, Balar had no choice. After he entered Yume's room, he quickly jumped from her window to his own. He put down the gift box in his hand, not daring to linger for a moment. He immediately went to the door, opened it, and leaned roguishly against the door frame. Please come in. After Yume gave a flustered reply and entered the room, she sat on a stool. But Balar leaned against the wall by himself, far away. Yume tried to maintain a sweet smile and patted the space beside her. Balar understood her meaning and dazedly sat down beside her, slowly scooting over to be close to his wife. He's really as cute as a bear. It seems my feelings have really changed. This man looks strangely cute. This apple looked delicious, so I bought it. Let's eat it together. Yume handed an apple to Balar. She was bubbling with joy. Balar watched his wife pick up the apple and take a big bite. He foolishly followed suit and took a bite too. Yume couldn't help but stifle a laugh at his adorably silly look. Balar panicked internally. What is she laughing at? Is the way I eat apples too strange? I'm sorry if it upset you. I didn't mean to. You took such a big bite in one go. That's really amazing. I didn't expect the size of our bites to be so different. Hearing his wife's explanation, Balar was thrilled. It's because you're small in every way. A small mouth, a small stature, and a small face. And other places too. Just thinking about it made Balar want to die of embarrassment. He stood up. I prepared a gift for you. He took out a pair of red low-heeled shoes and placed them in front of Yume. Yume was delighted. I can wear them now. Balar stared at his wife's attire. The heavy dress looked very inconvenient. Let me help you put them on. He gently lifted his wife's foot. His heart kept pounding wildly. The wife moved closer to her husband, bit by bit. The sweet atmosphere was perfect for a kiss. Who knew the monster Grand Duke would suddenly speak up? You should go back now. Yume was about to go crazy. Isn't Balar supposed to be the R-19 male led himself? Where did his strong desire for control go? Balar gently put the new shoes on his wife. The brief physical contact was so heart-fluttering. His heart throbbed. Yume, wearing the new shoes, was extremely happy. She revealed a sweet smile. Thank you. I like them very much. Looking at her smile, Balar almost fell for her again. He didn't know when it started. Whenever he met his wife's smile, his whole mind would go fuzzy. She didn't do anything. Balar braced himself. Don't be bewitched by this woman. She has comfortable shoes now. She will definitely try to find a way to escape. But is she going to escape even in the extremely cold north? It seems she really hates me. But how can she bear to smile at me and then run away? Yume, wearing her new shoes, was in a relaxed and cheerful mood. Balar, let's continue eating apples. Balar, who was just about to get angry, was instantly soothed by her smile. He became as obedient as a little puppy. Yume moved closer to him bit by bit. Balar was so nervous he started to sweat. What is she trying to do? And why does she keep smiling at me? Yume was immersed in the warm atmosphere between them. But when Balar thought that his wife might spend the night here, his heart was in turmoil. No, absolutely not. I'm not ready yet. Grand Duchess, it's already very late. You should return. Balar personally shattered the sweet scene. He didn't know why he did that either. Although if Yume really were to escape, she would fall right into his trap. But the thought of her actually wanting to escape still made Balar furious. He closed the window and walked into the bedroom, only to find that his wife's clothes were left here. To be honest, he didn't know what he wanted to do with her. Yume was being driven crazy by Balar. She almost doubted if he was still that monster Grand Duke. But I clearly have the same appearance as Siluan. So why on earth, after 3 nights, has the plot from the novel not started yet? The first day was happy. Yume felt it was just luck that she hadn't been imprisoned. But as the days went by, she started to feel more and more uneasy. This could no longer be explained by luck. It seemed there was a problem with the plot. The book didn't describe Siluan's personality, but Basler's personality was one of intense desire for control. Could it be that the Siluan in the book wasn't cautious like me, but was so adorable and cute that people would want to imprison her on sight? If that's the case, I'm doomed. I can't be like her. Just like the atmosphere today, we were about to kiss, but Balar asked me to leave to my face. I'm so miserable. I express myself so strongly. Why does it seem like Balar can't feel it? Am I really the only one who wants to kiss, hug, and hold hands? But I've never been in a relationship, so I don't know. Yume sulked and shed tears disappointedly. Where her tears were almost dry, she looked at the new shoes on her feet. It said that if lovers give shoes to each other, the one who receives them will run away. Could this gift be a hint too? Does Balar feel we're incompatible and wants me to leave on my own? In the morning, the adjutant rushed into the study. He had discovered a man last night who came from Jamorisok village in the southwest. His fiancée, Siluan, has disappeared. He came here searching everywhere for her. Although he and Siluan haven't officially held a wedding, they are already engaged. Zalt reluctantly explained the whole story. The Lord Commander had finally found his spring. How could this happen now? The land has started to thaw recently, hasn't it? As expected, the Lord Commander is as terrifying as ever. Does he want to bury that man? Yes, it's been a month since spring began. It's about what I expected. She is so beautiful in my eyes, and she must be the same in others' eyes. How could I have only discovered her beauty so late? It's my fault after all. Beauty is not a sin. Where's that guy now? Blinded by love? He actually dared to come here. It seems I have to go meet this bold fellow. Balar spoke calmly as if nothing was wrong, but those who knew him knew he was already enraged. The man has long legs and is 1.8 meters tall, but he's a paranoid and jealous little psycho. Hearing that his wife's nominal fiancé had come looking for her, he finally revealed his brutal fangs. The people in the village were all saying Siluan got married, but as her fiancé, he only just found out. He hurriedly asked where she had gone. Married into a very wealthy family in the far north. To be honest, she looks so noble, she never should have stayed here in the first place. Wearing expensive clothes, admiring famous paintings, and elegantly drinking tea in a garden would suit her better. But what does that matter? If Siluan is unhappy, the man doesn't care what rich family she married into. He has to find her and see her one more time. Although he doesn't know the exact location, With her unforgettable face, the man believed he would find her soon. He traveled over mountains and rivers and finally arrived in the cold north. Before he could even catch his breath, he was taken away by a group of people. His hands were forcibly tied, and he was thrown into a cell. "Who are you people? What do you want to do to me?" Balar looked at him coldly. "Begin." Hearing the command, a group of people held the man down, took out a vial, and poured a mysterious liquid into his mouth. The man who drank the liquid fell into a hypnotic state. Jamorasok village in the southwest. That woman named Siloan. Had you two already confirmed your feelings for each other? In a man's mind was the once beautiful Siloan. For their future, he swore to work hard his whole life to support her. This Siloan and I were in love with each other. The man mumbled foolishly. We promised to be together forever. At this, Basler's face turned blacker than a blackboard. Saul had a bad feeling. The potion that man just drank would make him temporarily lose consciousness and be forced to tell the truth. That guy's mental strength doesn't seem like someone who can overcome the potion. What he just said is 99 true. Zalt was afraid the Lord Commander would lose control and kill him. He could only follow closely behind, monitoring him. Zalt placed that guy in the castle and set up his escape route. Let him pass by the terrace next to the castle corridor. Balar revealed a sinister, intriguing smile. You may happen to be taking a walk on the terrace. Because some rare butterflies appeared, her gaze was drawn to them. There are no flowers in the castle, so the butterflies instinctively fly over the walls. Yume loved this magical sight, thinking about how from birth to adulthood, she was always forced into new environments, with no right to choose her own life. She felt lucky for the butterflies and cheered for them in her heart. When she turned around, she spotted Balar in the distance. This sudden eye contact made Balar extremely awkward, and he hesitated whether to go over. Just now, he had accidentally been watching his wife for 2 hours. She really is a magical woman. She must be just as beautiful in others' eyes. Thinking that if she hadn't been sold by her father, she would probably be with someone she loves now. If she had grown up among nobles, she would already be married at her age and might even have lovely children. But who would she fall in love with? The thought that all of this had nothing to do with him ignited a raging fire in Basler's heart. He was truly curious. He wanted to smash everything before him. He began to calculate in his mind how to kill that so-called lover without making his wife miss him. If she dared to show even a hint of missing that guy, he would grind her little lover's bones to dust and feed them to wild beasts. Yume happily came before Balar, lifted her skirt to show the shoes. "Balar, do these shoes suit me?" Hearing the woman's call, Balar, who was fierce and grumpy a second ago, instantly deflated like a shy puppy. To be honest, although Balar knew nothing about fashion, he was well aware that the dress and those leather shoes didn't match at all. He didn't want to spoil his wife's mood. Are they comfortable? They're very comfortable to walk in and beautiful, right? The shoes not only made her comfortable, but if she wanted to escape, she'd need to speed up. Seeing the gift he had given, Balar was reminded of his imprisonment plan. So, can we go out together today? Yume mustered up the courage to ask him out on a date. Balar was stunned. This was completely different from what he had expected. He didn't refuse, but shyly asked his wife where she wanted to go. Anywhere is fine. No matter where we go, as long as it's the two of us together, I'll be very happy. The Monster Grand Duke has a paranoid possessiveness towards his wife. The man was only his wife's nominal fiancé, and he almost exposed his inner thoughts, madly wanting to execute the lover on the spot. You may want to go on a date with Balar. As long as she was with him, anywhere would be fine. Balar didn't know how to reply to his delicate wife. After thinking for a moment, he told her, "Starting today, I will lock down the inner castle." The moment she heard this, Yume broke out in a cold sweat. She hesitantly wanted to ask him what she should do, but was told to stay in the inner castle for the time being. Yume blinked her big eyes, hoping Balar would relent. "I have some business, so I have to lock it down temporarily. It won't be for more than a week at most. After that, let's go horseback riding together." Yume almost thought the man was about to start imprisoning her. Thankfully, he wasn't. She happily accepted Basler's invitation. The corner of Basler's mouth lifted slightly. It seems that after today, his wife will resent him as expected. But what does it matter? As long as his wife belongs only to him. It's fine even if it makes her feel empty and sad. In any case, she absolutely cannot have any feelings for that lover. Especially a man who is still alive. I have to kill him with my own hands. Then we can go out for some fresh air together. She seems to like stars. Maybe we can go to the Lebeleberg forest. Such a clean and beautiful night sky. She will definitely like it. Balar was immersed in his own fantasy. Just then, the creak of a door was heard from a distance. A filthy man walked out of the main gate. Yume felt it was very strange. As far as she knew, the only people who could enter and exit the inner castle were herself and Balar, and then Zalt and Anna. So, is this person a servant? Never mind, I won't bother with him. Yume looked at Balar petulantly. But what if I don't know how to ride a horse? You're saying you don't know how to ride a horse now? Yes. Is it strange not to know how to ride a horse? I'm doomed. Do all the women here know how to ride horses? But I've never ridden a horse. Siluan, the man ran in front of Yume and fell to his knees in anger. I came all this way just to see you. You won't even look at me now? Yume was startled by him. She had never seen this man before. Her mind went blank. Was there such a person in the original story? I'm not sure. Never mind. Yume nervously slipped behind Balar. This scene was a blatant provocation to the man. Even though you're a married woman now, when I come before you, even if you don't hug me, shouldn't you at least talk to me for a bit? And to change your attitude so quickly, isn't that going too far? The man was about to explode with anger at Siluan. He angrily shouted, Siluan, Yume tightly hugged Basler's arm and asked in a low voice who that man was. He said he is the lover from your hometown with whom you promised a future. What? A lover I promised a future with? Seeing his delicate wife's nervous expression, Basler's lips curled up in a wicked smile. When Yume suddenly ran behind him, he thought she was going to assassinate him for her lover. But even if she did that, Balar wouldn't have minded. Yet she unhesitatingly dodged that man and hid behind him. Does this mean he didn't choose me again? And he wasn't even looking at his lover affectionately. Basler's mood suddenly brightened. Men, take him away. Yume sat on the ground, bewildered. What on earth went wrong? To be honest, if Balar knew about my past, he would definitely bury that man somewhere. Absolutely not like this. Could it be that he sealed the inner city just to test me? The more Yume thought about it, the more wrong she felt. She looked at Balar with teary eyes. Balar panicked. What's wrong with you? Are you going to send me to that man? I'm not. You're lying. Yes, I am lying. I wanted you two to meet so I could kill that man in front of you. But Balar couldn't say that. He awkwardly turned his face away. Actually, he begged me to let him meet you. The moment Balar said it, Yume showed extreme displeasure. Now he was truly panicking. The man had a twisted possessiveness. He hurtfully brought the lover before his wife, but unexpectedly made her cry. He lied to defend himself. The more Yume cried, the more heartbroken she became, tears falling like they were free. She looked at Balar angrily. If anyone says they want to see me, will you do this? Why don't you just paint a huge portrait of me and post it on the city gate? Wouldn't that be more convenient? Balar was sweating bullets from her questioning. Because he said he was your lover, and you just believed him and let him meet me in the inner city? Letting your wife meet a man of unknown origin. Balar originally didn't want to tell Yume the truth, but she kept pressing him relentlessly. He couldn't bear to hide it from his wife. I used a magic potion on him, the kind that makes it impossible to lie. All things considered, his words were credible. Yume gripped her skirt tightly. She was truly sad. Even if that man was Siluan's so-called lover, what kind of husband makes his wife meet her lover? Does he care about me that little? Balar looked at Yume innocently. Will she really be okay if she keeps crying? What if it harms her body? This is so annoying. Ever since he made his wife cry, Balar had been feeling very gloomy. He returned to his study and started chugging wine. Zalt didn't know what to say either. The master is probably the king of fools. He actually can't see that her Grace the Grand Duchess likes him. Every time he sees the Grand Duchess crying her heart out, he just avoids her instead of offering comfort. Besides, what man in the world would let the woman he likes meet her lover? And what's the point of pacing around his room all day now? He can't figure it out. Why does he always have to think about things in a violent and negative way? This possessiveness is truly damn twisted. Forget it. I'll handle this. Zalt went to Balar and whispered in his ear, Master, I heard the Grand Duchess hasn't been eating well. The voice was very soft. Basler's face flushed as he perked up his ears to listen carefully. Why don't you take some soup to the Grand Duchess's bedroom? What, do you think I'm a servant? Although Basler's words were a refusal, he still ended up carrying the soup to his wife's room. Listening to the continuous sound of crying from the room, his mind started racing again. Does she have the energy to cry like this because she saw her lover? She might as well curse me instead of not cursing that guy. But what if she's not crying because of that guy, but because she's disappointed in me? Balar forced himself to knock on Yume's door. Eat something. The sight of him now just made Yume furious. She sulkily pulled the covers over herself. What are you doing here? You're not going out. What does that have to do with you? The inner city is sealed anyway. Balar frowned at Yumei's words. Although Yumei wasn't afraid of me or thought I was difficult, she still had a timid air about her before. Now, that feeling is completely gone. She says what she wants with such confidence. It's actually kind of cute. The man doesn't even comfort me, and he's secretly smiling? What is that about? If you have something to say, just say it. Why are you acting like that? Why give me jewelry and then shoes? Afraid I'd be unsteady and letting me hold his arm, and then holding me tightly when I'm about to fall. What's he playing at? It's so frustrating. Is he looking down on me for being single my whole life? Does he think he can give me all these green lights just because I don't understand these things? Yumei's face twisted with anger. Balar stood aside, nonchalantly, as if nothing was wrong. I will reopen the main gate. We agreed to go horseback, riding together. Please keep your promise. When are we going? Now. We're going now. Yumei was utterly speechless. She resignedly put on her riding clothes, feeling extremely gloomy. I was crying so hard, and he didn't even ask if I was okay, though I wasn't expecting him to say anything. But is it that hard to wipe my tears for me? Yumei was about to explode with anger. But in Basler's eyes, she was in a different state. Her expression was fierce. She was wearing suitable clothes. He was completely oblivious to his wife's little temper tantrum. Zalt, standing between them, couldn't bear to watch. It seems the master has a long way to go in his pursuit of his wife. The man was known throughout the empire as a mad dog. But in love, he became a little puppy who wildly overthought things. Every time his wife had a thoughtful expression, he assumed she wanted to run away and leave him. As his adjutant, Zalt was also speechless. The Grand Duchess was still angry right beside him, yet the master was already lost in his own thoughts. Camelin West is a small village. There are no roads for carriages. Although Siloin said she can't ride a horse, how is that possible? In a small village like that, besides archery, what else is there to do but go hunting on horseback? Besides, as long as she gives birth to our child, I won't pursue her past at all. It's a good thing I don't know her past. Otherwise, Zalt would never have brought Siloin here. What a relief. Balar led a tall, white horse to Yumei's side. You can ride this horse later. The horse's back was already loaded with a lot of luggage. Yumei's heart fluttered. If I get on, will the horse find it too heavy? Are you kidding? Even if 5 women like you rode it, it would have no problem. Balar had no idea why his wife would say that. After all, from his perspective, Siloin was lighter than a feather. Yumei was about to reluctantly accept, but when she looked up at the white horse, she lost her nerve. It was much bigger than she had imagined. She really couldn't ride a horse. If she forced herself to ride, she'd probably fall off and die. Besides, she hadn't mentioned she couldn't ride earlier for fear of hurting her pride. But now she had to say it. She tightly clutched the corner of Basler's clothes. I can't ride a horse. Balar found it amusing. Are you joking? No, I really can't ride that horse. Yumei blinked her big eyes, looking at Balar pitifully. If that's the case, then let's learn to ride today and go out another day. How about that? Or we could ride the same horse together. What? Riding the same horse is basically like him holding me. This could easily give me the wrong idea. Yumei was flustered by Basler's suggestion, her head spinning. He's really confusing me, giving me all these green lights, but then pretending not to know at important moments. Could this be the legendary push-pull tactic? But it's so obvious. Whatever, I can't back down. Since everything's ready, let's go. Yumei nervously jumped onto the big black horse. As soon as she sat down, her body tilted forward. Balar quickly instructed her to hold the reins tightly. Then he also jumped onto the big black horse's back, his body pressing closely against his wife. He shyly turned his face away. Let's go. The horse walked steadily along the road, which made Yumei feel very secure. It's probably because Balar is the strongest male lead in the novel, and I'm the female lead that I feel this way. Behind her, Balar was so nervous he was sweating. He never expected them to be this close. Her sweet scent tantalized him the whole way. Both he and Siloin were wearing riding trousers. Only a thin layer of cloth separated them. Their bodies were pressed so close. Balar was being driven mad by the torture. Anna saw Zalt preparing a carriage. She curiously asked what it was for. Hearing it was for the master to use tonight, Anna's eyes nearly rolled into the back of her head. You're not really planning to go tonight, are you? What's wrong? I advise you to go tomorrow at dawn. Just arrive before daybreak. That would be more convenient for the master. After Anna finished, she didn't forget to mock Zalt as she left. There's a reason you're single. Zalt was completely bewildered by her words. Should he follow the master's orders or Anna's? If he didn't listen to Anna, he'd probably get beaten up quickly. But the master would just dock some pay. Forget it, I'll listen to Anna. Yumei and Balar sat together, warming themselves by the fire. The wind was so strong that Yumei huddled close to the man. Balar couldn't bear to see his wife suffer and started blaming Zalt for his incompetence. But Yume said it was fine and that this was quite romantic. Hearing his wife say that, Basler's ears turned impossibly red. It seems Zalt is somewhat useful after all. His wife was drunk. The man held her and sat through the night, his eyes turning into panda circles, not daring to move. His wife couldn't ride, so Balar had to hold her and ride the same horse. They arrived at Lebeleberg and stopped at a beautiful wooden cabin. Balar reached out his large hands and lifted his wife down. The small physical contact made them both extremely shy. Their minds were dizzy. They nervously babbled nonsense. When it got dark, they sat together by the fire. Gusts of wind blew onto Yume. Balar felt a pang of sympathy. He used his arm to shield her. I clearly told Za LT to come pick us up tonight. I don't know what the situation is now. It's okay. I think this is quite nice. Yume smiled sweetly, looking very happy. Basler's ears turned red as he mentally gave his adjutant a thumbs up. Would you like some wine? It'll warm you up. Hearing the word wine, Yume bubbled with joy. Before she transmigrated, her alcohol tolerance was quite good. She could even drink 3 shots of soju. A little wine now would be no problem at all. Balar took out a bottle of wine. Yume smiled awkwardly. I don't really like wine because it's a bit astringent. If you don't like wine, how about whiskey? Okay, this is my first time drinking whiskey. Yume took a glass and gulped it down. Balar watched her quietly. His investigation revealed that Siluan loved to drink wine in her hometown, especially the Lafon region wine he had just taken out. She's probably a lightweight. That wine has the lowest alcohol content. After finishing 1 glass, Yume's face was flushed. It's so delicious. Want another glass? There are many small animals around here. Are they squirrels or hedgehogs? They're rabbits and foxes. Why don't we prepare a bow, an arrow? Then we can hunt. By the way, do you like hunting? Basler's eyes were fixed on Yume. Her heart suddenly tensed up. Because she had drunk 3 full glasses of whiskey, a wave of drunkenness began to wash over her. Is he going to kiss me? His gaze and aura are completely different from before. Hee, I didn't want to kiss him after drinking, but I have no choice now. Yume excitedly stood up. Hunting? I've never tried it before. After saying that, she dizzily fell into Basler's arms. Her eyes squinted shut, and she began to sleep soundly. Balar gently picked her up in a princess carry. It seems she can't hold her liquor. It probably wasn't my imagination before. From the performance before the wedding, to a week later when something unknown happened. After that, Siluan clearly became a different person. She must be a witch. I've been bewitched by her several times. This probably isn't a coincidence either. If this woman is a witch, then where is the real Siluan? Can I still find her? Balar sat on the edge of the bed, holding his wife, his eyes fixed on her. Yume kept murmuring about being cold, her body pressing tightly against his. Basler's heart pounded. His head felt like a ripe apple about to explode. Siluan is clearly wearing a vest, and she's even draped in my cloak. How can I still feel this way? But this woman is clearly a witch. How could she show such a foully satisfying expression? And yet, I'm attracted to her even though she's done nothing. She truly is a wicked witch. Balar foolishly held his wife all night. The dark circles under his eyes deepened by 2 shades. He thought all night, it doesn't matter even if his wife is a witch. Although witches possess peerless beauty and can devour the entire empire, devouring him is nothing. As long as she's not like that woman, anything is acceptable. But the prerequisite is that he must find the real Siluan. The sound of a carriage approaching came from outside the window. That guy Zalt has finally arrived. Yume was placed on the bed. She blinked her eyes open. She found herself alone in the room. She was terrified. Did I wake up too late? Where on earth did that Balar go? He didn't just abandon me and run off, did he? Yume walked out of the room and came to a doorway. Inside was Basler's voice. Zalt, using the time around our wedding as a reference point, go investigate the witches and sorcerers in the north. Master, why the sudden order? I suspect the Siluan on our wedding day was swapped. I have to find the real Siluan. Yume was completely panicked listening to this shocking conversation. The Monster Grand Duke has finally discovered his wife's secret, so his wife was swapped on the first day of their marriage. He sent his subordinate to find information. He wants to lock her by his side completely before she can escape. Hearing the conversation between Balar and his subordinate, Yume's face turned pale with fright. It's really over now. It's very likely that it wasn't Siluan's body that changed, but her soul. If we find the witch or sorcerer who was in the north at that time, we should be able to find a real Siluan. Her Grace the Grand Duchess is here. Zalt suddenly noticed Yume at the door. Yume pretended she was just passing by and walked in. Balar introduced Zalt to her. Yume had no impression of him at all. It's a pleasure to meet you. Please take care of me in the future. Balar seemed to have confirmed something. He nodded for Zalt to leave. This Siluan is indeed not the real one. Zalt had personally brought her from the village, and before the wedding, they had chatted several times in the inner city. The current Siluan acted as if she was meeting Zalt for the first time. Yume sat alone on the opposite side of the carriage. 3 pairs of eyes avoided each other. The atmosphere was inexplicably tense. Yume had no idea what to do now. No matter how she thought about it, she felt she was doomed. Zalt's reaction just now clearly indicated that Siluan already knew him. Falsely claiming to be the Grand Duchess is a serious crime, a capital offense. Honestly, if a person suddenly changes, even if they say I'm a spy who infiltrated with a huge conspiracy, I would have nothing to say. Will they torture me to confess who's behind it? In the end, will I be beheaded for my crimes? Could it be that he brought my past lover here because he already suspected my identity back then? Why am I so pitiful? I just wanted to share the trivialities of daily life and have a peaceful married life. Is that so difficult? No, even if I'm caught in a tiger's den, I must pull myself together and deal with it. I need to think carefully about what to do now. From the moment his wife got into the carriage, Balar had been staring at her. Her expressions, sometimes happy, sometimes distressed, were all seen by him. He thought all witches were poised and generous. He didn't expect Siluan not to be. She was actually fatally cute. A magical crow flew from the roof of the carriage, finally landing in a hidden cabin. A man with purple hair took the small crow, likely understanding the situation. Just then, a woman wrapped entirely in bandages suddenly spoke. Is it going well? I hope that woman can fulfill her duties properly. You need to understand that you can't do anything right now. Hearing this, the woman's mood became exceptionally agitated. The purple-haired man went to comfort her. It's frustrating now, but bear with it. Vincent and I will handle things. After much thought, Balar decided to pretend he didn't know. He was terrified that if Siluan found out, she would try to escape. He didn't understand the changed soul at all. If this soul suddenly left her body and returned to its original one, he would never find her again. Initially, Balar wanted to lure his wife into escaping and then use that as a reason to imprison her. Now it seems that plan is no longer feasible, but he could find a way to bind her soul. He couldn't let her have any thoughts of escaping. So, from now on, he would appropriately compromise and fulfill her wishes. The original Siluan was also a beautiful woman, but this Siluan's eyes were incredibly captivating. Balar was obsessively fixated on her. He had to find a way to lock this soul by his side. Yume was still racking her brain for a countermeasure. Suddenly, she had an idea. Should I just tell him directly? Your wife's soul hasn't changed. There's no need to find the real Siluan. That should be able to convince him. Whether it's in web novels, dramas, or books, there's always a magical solution, and that is amnesia. This would be a piece of cake for me. I don't know when Balar started suspecting me. To be safe, I'll just have amnesia starting from the first night. The foolish wife's identity was suspected, and she even heard her husband's conversation firsthand. Sitting opposite him, she was about to burst with anxiety. She emptied her mind, her gaze drifting out of the carriage window, not saying a word. She was about to suffocate. Finally, she couldn't help but break the silence. This doesn't seem to be the way home, because the path for horses is different from the one for carriages. It might be a bit of a detour, but it won't take too long. After he spoke, it was about to get awkward again. To lighten the mood, Yume carefully tested the waters. Are you hungry? Balar sat with a serious expression and didn't reply. Yume started to panic, explaining that she just thought he might be hungry since he didn't eat breakfast. To her surprise, this clueless man actually handed her a basket of food. It's still a while before we reach the commercial street. If you're hungry, eat this. Yume was amused by his silly gesture. I'm not hungry, I was just worried about you. Balar hadn't expected her to be thinking so much about him. He shyly turned his face away, stammering that he was fine. The carriage finally arrived at a bustling market street. Seeing this kind of scene from this era for the first time, Yume was beyond excited. She stared out the window, not daring to look away for a second. It feels completely different from the plaza. It honestly looks like a place where elves would live. Balar watched Yume's excited little expressions. She looked as if she was seeing it for the first time. However, if she's a witch who lived in the countryside, it would all make sense. Yume felt oppressed by his staring, as if he was saying she was a fake Siluan. This impression wasn't good for Yume. She had to find a topic, say something. My butt hurts from sitting in the carriage for so long. If a horse is ridden like this, does its butt hurt too? The moment she said it, Yume wanted to die. What on earth am I saying? I've just made the atmosphere even more awkward. Luckily, Zalt's voice broke the tension at that moment. General, Master, we've arrived at the place you mentioned. Yume breathed a sigh of relief. But then Balar opened the carriage door and suddenly got out. Where's he going? Don't tell me Balar has business here. and is making me go home by myself. Get down. Balar extended a hand to Yume. If they walked all the way home like this, they would probably get hungry very quickly. So, Balar decided to take Yume to a restaurant for a meal. Yume looked at her released hand, feeling a bit strange. Mustering her courage, she reached out and held his hand tightly. Balar realized something, his face flushing shyly, not daring to look at her. This atmosphere felt like a date between lovers. Looking at the table full of food, Yume's mood couldn't be better. She glanced at Balar again and saw his gaze was fixed on her. Back at the cabin, he stayed with me all night, and now he's treating me to such delicious food. Our relationship has finally gotten a little closer. The thought of having to deceive him later made her feel terrible. But if she didn't, it would be hard to say if she could survive. So, now is the time to say she has amnesia. There's something I'm very curious about. What is our relationship right now? This question stunned Balar. You come to my room at night, and you give me gifts. Most importantly, the location of the bedrooms is like that. So I thought about it, and it seems we are a married couple. Is what I'm thinking correct? Balar didn't speak, leisurely sipping his coffee. Yume had to use her ultimate move. But why haven't we consummated our marriage? As expected, hearing such a shameless question, Balar finally panicked. You might need to explain what you're talking about. Just as Yume wished, he asked the question. I'm sorry if this is shocking to you, but I think I have amnesia. Balar had finally found a way to bind his wife. He excitedly knocked on her door. To his surprise, his wife wasn't there. She ran away. Yume was a little embarrassed. She shyly told Balar that she had amnesia. Balar wasn't very surprised by this fact. After all, if Yume's identity as a witch were discovered, he wouldn't be able to achieve his goal. It was obvious that amnesia was an excuse she had fabricated. Balar had no intention of exposing her. He would agree to whatever she wanted. We are indeed husband and wife. When do your memories begin? I'm not actually sure about the specific date. It was that night when you helped me draw the curtains and told me to go to sleep. The next day, after you went out, you came back and poured blood on the bed. So you can't remember anything before that? Yume nodded frantically. It was just as he said. That day was our wedding day. What? You seem curious. Why we haven't consummated our marriage. Actually, ours is a political marriage. Balar was very curious to see how his wife would react to him saying this. Because you felt unfamiliar with me, I decided that we would begin our married life on the 10th day after the wedding, so we could get to know each other. Of course, you probably don't remember me saying this, but tomorrow is the 10th day. Starting their married life on the 10th day. Yume never expected that in her attempt to twist fate, she had shot herself in the foot and dug an even bigger hole for herself. She was really going crazy. I know he's the monster Grand Duke, but what he said, it's all a bunch of blatant lies. The worst part is knowing their lies, but being unable to refute them. What on earth is this situation? Yume was practically withering. Basler's eyes were secretly observing Yume. He also didn't expect that she would occupy the body of a married woman. What a careless witch. But looking at her troubled little expression now, it seems what just happened was a huge blow. But so what? I will absolutely not let her go. She doesn't even consider my feelings and just talks about our marital relationship. As expected of a cunning little witch. Sooner or later, I will conquer her. Time passed to the next evening. Before the wedding night was to take place, Yume thought of a good idea. That was to get herself drunk. The method seemed rather terrible, but she really couldn't think of any other way to stall for time. But now another problem arose. Where could you get wine? After all, Yume didn't know where the castle's wine cellar and kitchen were. With no other choice, she had to go to the market. Yume put on a cloak and quietly left the room alone. In his room, Balar revealed a long unseen smile. He had finally gotten his hands on what he wanted, the anklet in the red box. It was something he had managed to obtain from the black market with great difficulty. A soul circle that could bind a soul to a physical body. Initially, those who obtained it used it for healing, but because the side effects were too great, now only madmen would use such a thing. The fatal side effect would only occur upon the wearer's death, affecting the holder. Balar could guarantee that he wouldn't let her pass away first. After getting this item, he couldn't wait to give it to Yume. But when he arrived at her door, it was exceptionally quiet today. Balar simply thought she was asleep. He knocked on the door, thump, thump, who knew there was still no movement inside. Balar knew his wife had run away. With a cold face, he ordered Anna to immediately lock down the northern region. At this moment, Yume was still wandering the streets. Unexpectedly, she bumped into a man walking towards her. Yume was just about to apologize when the man suddenly grabbed her arm. The foolish wife has run away. The monster Grand Duke assembled an army. This time he was truly on edge. He swore that if he caught her, he would definitely lock his wife in a dark room. Yume accidentally bumped into a man. She was just about to apologize when he suddenly grabbed her arm. She thought the man was about to do something bad. Who knew he would say he had the wrong person? What a strange man. The castle's army was frantically patrolling all over the streets. Balar stood before the army, his expression extremely grim. "Search carefully, all of you." It was almost dawn now, but there was still no sign of Siloan. It seemed the tracking network his subordinates set up in the morning needed to be re-examined. But if she ran away because she hated the idea of consummating our marriage, she could have just told me. I've already waited 10 days. Would I really mind another day or two? This is really infuriating. If I catch her, I will definitely not let her off easily this time. Talp, talp, talp. The crisp sound of footsteps came from the street opposite. Balar stared intently at the yellow figure. He was certain in his heart that person was Siloan. He didn't dare to hesitate. He rushed over at a pace of 10 meters per second. The moment he grabbed his wife's hand, he kept praying that her soul was still in this body. Thankfully, Yume showed her signature angelic smile. Yume was very surprised by Basler's anxious appearance. Did something happen? Why do you look so terrible? Yume waved her hand in front of him, who knew Balar would directly grab her hand and press it against his own face. He had already made up his mind. If he met her again, he would definitely lock her in her room. But seeing her smile, he lost his nerve. Zalt watched the two embrace and quietly signaled for the others to disperse. To be honest, he once desperately hoped the Grand Duchess would firmly capture the Master's heart. That way, she could help the Master suppress his killing intent. But now that his wish had come true, the Grand Duchess's identity turned out to be a witch. What are you doing here? Yume didn't expect Balar to ask her that. She was a little embarrassed. She wanted to answer, but couldn't find a way. She could only force a reply with a blushing face. Because I thought I might need a drink tonight, so I ran out to buy some wine. What? It was for wine? Balar was fuming inside. She had him tearing his hair out at home, and she came out just to buy wine. And if it weren't for her drinking that day, he hadn't slept a wink that entire night. Balar grumbled irritably. It seems you want to throw another drunken tantrum. What? I threw a drunken tantrum? It was all right. It wasn't too excessive at the time, so don't worry too much. Yume felt she couldn't even face Balar anymore. Her alcohol tolerance used to be very good. She would never throw a drunken tantrum. But this current body was the complete opposite. So much for using the power of alcohol to refuse sharing a room with him. It seemed this plan was a bust. Balar paused for a few seconds. He suddenly knelt on one knee on the ground, looking at her piously. "Give me your foot." What? Yume was a little surprised. He actually wanted her to put her foot on his knee. She blushed, feeling embarrassed, but Balar remained kneeling, completely still. It was as if he wouldn't get up unless she agreed. With no choice, she closed her eyes tightly, mustered her courage, and lifted her foot. Balar seemed very excited. The moment her foot was lifted, he grabbed it forcefully. He immediately fastened the mysterious anklet onto it. Basler's anxious heart finally calmed down. This way, even if his wife ran away, he could still find her. Even if she cried and begged him for mercy, he wouldn't take it off. "I will lock my wife firmly by my side." Balar got excited just thinking about it. Yume, who received the gift, was also very happy. It was beautiful, and the sound it made was very crisp. But thinking back to the shoes he gave her before, and now an anklet, could it be that Balar has a foot fetish? Let's go home. Okay, but I have one more question. Is my behavior when drunk really that bad? Well, in my entire life, it's the first time I've ever seen someone behave like that when drunk. The man dragged his wife back. Without a word, he threw her into the room. Outside the door, the head female officer stood guard rigidly. The sweet wedding night was shattered just like that. Yume was depressed about this all night. She couldn't help but suspect that Balar liked girls who act cute and spoiled. Balar asked his wife to go home with him, who knew Yume wouldn't give up, and asked again. Is my behavior when drunk really that bad? Balar recalled her on that drunken day. She was so clingy and cute. He warned her seriously and sternly, "From now on, when I'm not by your side, don't drink." Unexpectedly, Yume found a loophole. "That means when you are by my side, I can drink, right?" Only someone with her train of thought would say that. Balar let out a chuckle. "Of course you can when I'm with you." Being able to continue drinking made Yume ecstatic. She excitedly asked if they should drink tonight. Balar had no choice. When they got home, he threw her into the room. To prevent her from running away again, he called Anna to stand guard outside the door. He himself then strode away, cold and heartless. So the consummation she had been anticipating for the past few days fell through just like that. Although Yume had tried every means to postpone it before, thinking of the man's heartless appearance, she couldn't help but feel sad. Why didn't he touch me? I should be considered a very charming woman, right? And objectively speaking, this body is clearly a great beauty. Could it be that its sickly appearance lacks vitality and doesn't match Basler's tall and powerful image? Or does he prefer lively, petite young ladies who like to act spoiled? Ugh, this is so frustrating. Should I try acting spoiled? Maybe the effect will be good. I might even get a sweet kiss from him. Yume sat in front of the mirror, feeling both shy and agitated as she thought. Meanwhile, Balar had finally finished processing the piled-up documents. Last night, he was completely scheduled by Zalt. It was either this matter wasn't handled, or that task wasn't done. That guy's nerve is really getting bigger and bigger. But what is Siloan doing now? Basler's gaze shifted to the room opposite. Anna was arranging lunch. It seemed it would be lunchtime soon. If he was lucky, he might even hear her laughter. Thinking about it this way, life was quite beautiful. Your Highness, is the food to your liking? It's very good. I want to introduce someone to you today. This is Maidalai, from the August Viscount family that has served the Grand Ducal House for generations. Hello, Your Highness the Duchess. It is my honor to meet you. This lady is well-versed in etiquette and is mature. I was thinking of having her serve as your handmaiden. Maidalai was bubbling with joy upon seeing Yume. She was originally the designated handmaiden for the Grand Duchess. Due to a serious illness a few months ago, she had missed the opportunity. Now that she was well, she was thinking of trying to win Yume's favor. She hadn't expected this turn of events. But looking closely at the handmaiden's appearance, she was exactly the cute type she had just been imagining. This was too much of a coincidence. Anna, at the side, breathed a sigh of relief, although the Grand Duchess didn't look very pleased. Thankfully, she accepted her. Since Yume came to this house, she had never made any requests. Even with simple meals and plain clothes, she never showed a hint of dissatisfaction. At most, she just wanted to go out. But even when she went out, her spending was only a few coins of her pocket money. Anna could see she was a kind and simple girl, but her being so docile really put her in a difficult position, because the Empress might arrive as soon as tomorrow. Although the Master had only reported the marriage to the Emperor through documents, the Empress, being by the Emperor's side, couldn't possibly not know. A woman who was an illegitimate daughter had become a noble lady, and had even become her younger brother's wife. It would be hard for her not to express her true feelings. As her good friend, Anna knew her too well. The Empress was not someone who would consider others' feelings and say things against her conscience. She always got even for the smallest grievance. If such a simple Grand Duchess were to be hurt by her harsh words, it would be terrible. Anna was truly worried about her meeting with the Empress tomorrow. The foolish wife was ignored all night. She was in a gloomy mood while eating with the man. But the straightforward Grand Duke suddenly invited her to dinner. The foolish wife was happy again. She decided to immediately advance their marital progress with him. Maidalai liked Yume very much. Seeing her finish her meal, she eagerly went to pour her tea. Your Highness, is the tea to your liking? Her sweet smile was very healing. Yume, who was suddenly addressed, was stunned. She was simply too pure and too cute. Her whole person was sparkling. She looked like a perfect match for Basler's image. The little handmaiden, receiving praise, beamed with joy. However, at this moment, the steady footsteps of a man were suddenly heard. It was the Master's inherent powerful aura. The little handmaiden was terrified. She stood trembling at the side, not daring to move. Yume looked at her. Her tea-pouring movements were shaking terribly. She was so nervous. Yume could understand. After all, with Balar sitting so handsomely in front of her, it would be strange not to be nervous. I imagine I was like that before. Looking at it now, I was such a fool. Even if I practice acting spoiled, it's impossible to change a person's fundamental nature. Balar sat opposite his wife, drinking tea, his eyes fixed on her. He waved his hand, signaling the little handmaiden to withdraw. Maidalai received permission, bowed, and frantically fled the room. The Master is too terrifying. My tears are about to fall. Because I was too nervous. My hands were shaking the whole time I was pouring tea, but I was afraid of making a mistake, which made them shake even more. In contrast, Her Highness the Duchess wasn't scared at all. She was as elegant and calm as ever in front of the Master. She's truly amazing. Maidalai now completely became Yume's little fangirl. Since Balar came in, Yume had been acting gloomy. In a short time, her little expressions had changed several times. His wife wasn't even looking at him. Balar was getting a little jealous. He faked a cough to attract his wife's attention. Would you like to have dinner together tonight? Okay. Yume suddenly smiled like a flower. Damn it, it hit his little heart hard again. He thought that if he took the opportunity to ask her to take a walk with him and have some champagne together, she probably wouldn't refuse. You may also figure out what she wanted. Her earlier envy of Maidalai's cuteness was, in the end, because she wanted to have the man, Balar, all to herself. Since the two of them were now husband and wife, then now they should cherish their time together even more. So let's move forward towards a beautiful future. Can you take me for a walk around the outer castle? Yume looked at Balar with determination. Time seemed to freeze at this moment. Balar happily agreed to his wife's invitation. He gently lowered his head and offered her his arm to lean on. The two simpletons arrived at the outer castle, walking stiffly like that. Seeing the color of the castle, Balar was not very satisfied. He felt it didn't suit Yume. However, Yume was actually very curious. What is that used for? That's a place used for hosting banquets when guests occasionally visit. It's empty now. Oh, so that's what it is. Yume quietly turned him towards the castle. Balar really couldn't understand her gentleness. Like a rabbit, she had no strength at all. Being gently led by his wife, Balar felt a sweet sensation in his heart. It wasn't bad being led like this. The nearby buildings seemed to be completely empty. Yume's heart was beating fast. Based on the current atmosphere, maybe they could have a sweet kiss. Although she was very shy, Yume led Balar as they continued walking in that direction. But what they didn't know was that a mysterious woman was quietly following them. The foolish wife pulled the man to the outer castle, taking the opportunity when no one else was around to disturb them. She wanted to have a sweet kiss with the monster Grand Duke. But as they walked, a ghostly scream came from behind them. Yume was so scared she broke down and cried. Why are you only telling me now that there's a female ghost here? Yume pulled Balar into the castle's interior. The silence inside was panic-inducing. Her body was pressed tightly against Balar. Just then, a sound like the wind came through the air. Did you just hear a strange sound? Balar wasn't surprised at all. He calmly told Yume that it was the voice of Nephili, a female ghost who lives on the 4th floor. It's actually a female ghost. Yume couldn't hold it in anymore and burst into tears. Why are you only telling me now? Is there a problem? Balar was baffled by the question. He didn't understand why his wife was reacting so strongly. Yume was a little annoyed. It's about the female ghost. Because I don't really care about it. I didn't know there were people in the world who were afraid of female ghosts. Yume looked past Balar and saw the floating female ghost. Her eyes widened like saucers. She was terrified. She urged Balar to leave quickly. Her steps panicked. In contrast, Balar followed slowly and leisurely. Thinking about it carefully, in a world where dragons and magic coexist, of course creatures like ghosts would also exist. Although the Yume living now was also very scared, she had always brainwashed herself that such things didn't exist, so she wasn't that afraid. Now, ghosts were real here. Yume sobbed and shed tears disappointingly. This is just too awful. I already said I'm scared of ghosts. Why does he still have that indifferent look? No matter how little he cares about me, he can't be like this. It's really heartbreaking. Yume finally walked out of the castle, but she was still fuming inside. Balar looked at a carriage that suddenly drove up and couldn't help but praise his subordinates for being very diligent. However, the carriage wasn't on patrol at all. A noble, elegant, and mature woman stepped down from the carriage. Long time no see, my dear younger brother. Seeing that the visitor was his witch sister, Balar immediately became vigilant. I heard you took a wife. Balar protectively hid his wife behind him like a mother hen. Please, don't take an interest in her. After sending Yume away, Balar went to see his sister alone. Why are you here? As your family from your mother's side? Do I need a reason? But if you came without a reason, the journey is a bit too far, isn't it? Is that so? On my way here, I heard some news. I heard you're looking for a witch. I can help you. I don't need it. All right. It seems you and your wife have a good relationship. Please, don't get any ideas about her. But we're family now. I should get to know her, shouldn't I? Then you can just pretend she doesn't exist. But what if we argue when we meet? At least I should know what she looks like, right? Balar was really annoyed by such excuses. He impatiently warned his sister to stop talking. If she angered him, he might just burn down the imperial palace. Zania sighed helplessly. Her younger brother was still the same old him. When he got angry, he didn't care about anything. But fortunately, it seemed his married life was going quite well. Balar had always held a great prejudice against witches. He believed witches were arrogant and sinister, casually manipulating ghosts and spirits for their own use. But then again, would a witch be afraid of ghosts? Generally, they like to use ghosts as slaves. Silouan is afraid of ghosts. So that's another clue. Generally, when a witch takes over someone's body, she will eliminate the original owner's soul or imprison it. Silouan looks so fragile, innocent, and naive. She probably wouldn't use such a vicious method. Truly scattered. It seems I'll have to help her clean up the loose ends. I absolutely cannot let the original owner of the body return. A love-struck fool like a mad puppy. Afraid that his foolish wife would run into his sister, he decided to keep his wife cooped up by his side. Without batting an eye, he lied that the female ghost had set her sights on Siluan. If she acted alone, she would be attacked by the female ghost. Yume had a wonderful sleep. She stretched comfortably in bed. She wondered if Balar was awake yet. If he was, they could have breakfast together. Yume's gaze drifted. Who knew she would see Balar at a glance? She was startled like a frightened little rabbit. Her body shyly burrowed into the quilt. Oh no, what do I do? My face is all puffy. He didn't see it just now, did he? And I yawned so crudely. Just thinking about how I looked just now is so embarrassing, so annoying. Balar didn't expect that he would startle his wife. He walked to the bedside and asked if she was all right. Yume poked her head out pitifully. Is there something you need this early in the morning? Balar originally wanted to tell her that a very dangerous witch in Berias had her in her sights. But thinking about it, she was scared to death just hearing about ghosts yesterday. If he told her this directly, she might just faint from fright. Because his witch sister was different from other witches, she often ate people without them even realizing it. Although Balar had already had the people from the Imperial Palace ask her to return, before that, he needed an excuse to keep his wife by his side. He didn't want his sister and Yume to meet. Yume looked at his solemn expression and knew something bad had happened. She scared herself and suddenly threw off the covers. Oh, sorry, I was a little startled. I didn't mean to. And there's something very serious I need to tell you. After we went there yesterday, Nephili disappeared. It seems she has taken a liking to you. Hearing this news, Yume was lifeless, staring blankly at Balar. Taken a liking to me? Yes. A servant was responsible for monitoring Nephili. He said she suddenly disappeared at dawn. She usually targets women who are alone and then takes over their bodies. Balar fabricated the lie with a straight face. Yume, however, shrank further and further into the quilt in fear. What are you doing? Nothing. With what you said, does that mean I can't be alone? That's the right understanding. Balar looked at his wife's deflated appearance and really wanted to mess with her a little. He pointed to the window. Look, isn't there something over there? What's wrong? Yume panicked and clung tightly to Balar. Balar gave a wicked, quiet grin. He slyly thought that if he seized this opportunity, maybe he could be with his wife every day. He gently used his hand to comfort her. Just then, Maidalai's voice came from outside the door. Your Highness, I've come to help you change. Yume, as if seeing her savior, shook off Balar and walked towards the small inner room. Balar emanated a murderous aura from behind. He had been enjoying their private world for two. Their time together was thus interrupted by the sharp-eyed handmaiden, May. He was truly annoyed. If she weren't Zalt's sister, Balar would have replaced her immediately. Maidalai was nervous to death, but she remembered her brother's warning. If the Lord Commander was in a bad mood, she must stay by the Grand Duchess's side. Only by doing so could she save her own life. She tried hard to pretend to be calm as she helped Yume change clothes. Yume also noticed the little handmaiden's nervousness. She looked at Balar behind her. I want to have breakfast with you. Can you wait for me? The Grand Duke, who was furious just a moment ago, turned into a dazed little puppy upon hearing his wife's words. He obediently agreed. Yume was amused by his silly appearance. After this incident, Maidalai completely understood the situation. It seemed that following the Grand Duchess was the safest. Spring arrived. The castle's lawn grew with lush, young grass. Yume was overjoyed. What's over there that's making you smile so happily? Look, there are white butterflies over there. They're like me. They can only gather nectar after finding flowers. But there are no flowers here, and no family to protect them. Although they sway when the wind blows, they are very brave. Balar was very displeased by Yume's words. It sounded as if she planned to leave in the future. He would never allow it. He walked to Yume's side, the legendary Berias family. They saved the disciples who were in deep trouble. However, the heirs of their family were all the scourge of the North. The Grand Duke is a bloodthirsty monster. His sister, the Empress, is an even more bewitching witch. Balar knew his sister's nature very well. He didn't want his innocent and kind wife to have contact with her. But Yume suddenly became gloomy. Balar didn't like this atmosphere. He placed his hand on his wife's shoulder, giving her strength. I'm here to protect and take care of you. He didn't want his wife to fly away from his side like a butterfly. Besides, whether it was flowers or nectar, as long as his wife needed it, he would risk his life to find it for her. Balar stared at Yume with a serious expression. Is he angry? Was what I said too sentimental? Is that why it forced Balar to say such gritted teeth words? But our married life is still so long. I don't want our relationship to fall apart. Even if we can't be like lovers, we can at least be like friends. Can we go out together? Balar didn't expect his wife to invite him out. His face flushed with shyness, and he couldn't immediately compose himself. because they were going out. His witch sister might be waiting outside. If they were caught by that crazy sister, she might lay her hands on Yume. Balar really wanted the two of them to never meet. But Yume's desire to go out was written all over her face. Balar was helpless and had to agree. Is there anywhere you want to go? Really? The market up ahead is fine. I want to walk through the market and eat snacks with you. Yume pulled Balar along, smiling happily. This made Balar start to feel insecure, afraid that if his wife found out about his terrible reputation on the battlefield, she wouldn't like him anymore. There's something I have to tell you first. The woman we met in the outer city yesterday is my sister. What? Your sister? Why wasn't this person mentioned in the original story? Yesterday, why didn't he introduce his sister to me? Doesn't this make me seem very rude? Like someone who ignores her sister-in-law. Ugh, this is the worst first impression. You said you have amnesia. Have your memories not returned yet? The moment amnesia was mentioned, Yume panicked and quickly bluffed her way through it. Balar opened the outer city gate. Just as he expected, his witch sister was waiting there. Oh, you're only coming out now? Yume saw it was the sister. The chance to change her first impression was right in front of her. She prepared to go forward and greet her. But unexpectedly, Balar blocked her way with a nervous expression. They were glaring at each other. Yume cleverly peeked out from the side. Hello, I'm the one who, a few days ago, got married. Balar, Siloan. I heard just now that sister was here and was very much looking forward to meeting you. I hope we can get along well in the future. Zania let out a laugh. Brother, she says she wants to get along well with me. You seem like the uninvited guest intruding on our relationship. Seeing that Balar didn't dare say anything, she pretended to be a harmless big sister and walked up to Siloan. I'm also very happy to meet you. Why don't we have dinner together tonight? Balar, unable to bear it any longer, suppressed his anger and said no. Yume saw the situation and took his hand. I'm sorry, sister. I already have plans with him today. Balar was very satisfied, revealing a firm, winner smile. But Yume was completely unaware of his little scheme and happily continued, saying they could meet tomorrow. This was unexpected for Balar, and he looked a little unhappy. Zania was truly speechless. He acted so annoyed with his own sister, but when it came to his wife, he wouldn't say a thing even if he disagreed. The double standard couldn't be more obvious. Berias was founded by monsters from the northern snow mountains, but later they came down less and less frequently. People slowly gathered to live near the castle. The Grand Duke wouldn't restrict people's development, but he would help whenever they asked for it. Because of this good rule, residents from nearby also began to come here. But resources were very limited. Later, they began to mine. The corpses of dragons buried underground produced a large amount of magic ore in the north. Just like that, Berias accumulated great wealth and power. And then, 200 years later, a 27-year-old Zania stood out at her imperial social debut. In an instant, she became the northern witch who bewitched everyone in the imperial palace. In less than a year at the palace, she turned Berias into a duchy. Yume looked at the history book, feeling more and more admiration for this witch sister. Your Highness, the Grand Duchess, are you taking a walk? Maidalai brought a red-haired man before her. Do you remember what I said before? This is the doctor who helped me when I was hovering between life and death. He's really amazing. I'm very happy to meet you. Your Grace, the Grand Duchess. Please take good care of me. Yume looked at the man's delicate face and felt a strange sense of familiarity, as if she had seen him somewhere before. The foolish wife wants a sweet romance. She tries to wink flirtatiously like other lovers. The puppy-like Grand Duke's heart tingled with shyness. Fearing it was a hallucination, he grabbed his wife, wanting to confirm it. The red-haired doctor brought by Maidalai looked familiar to Yume, but she couldn't remember who he was. She stared at the doctor, wanting to say something, but hesitating. Your Highness, is there something you wish to say? No. I must have been mistaken. In a corner that Yume and the others didn't notice, the red-haired doctor revealed a meaningful smile. Your Grace, the Grand Duchess, where are you planning to go next? Are you saying you're going to the market alone with the Lord Commander? Yes. At the mention of this, Yume smiled happily. When the appointed time came, she took Basler's hand and headed to the market. Let's go buy some snacks by the fountain. Balar obediently nodded. Yume was bubbling with happiness inside. She hadn't expected Balar to be so obedient, going wherever she led him. Moments like this were truly so sweet. But the originally bustling street, because of Basler's arrival, people began to flee or look at him with expressions of fear and panic. This gloomy atmosphere was clearly suffocating. Balar knew it would be like this. Although, given the things he had done, he deserved such a reaction. But it was his wife Yume's first time encountering this. She must be very flustered. Seeing his wife subjected to such gazes, Basler's mood soured. However, Yume kept holding his hand tightly, still speaking to him with the sweetest smile. What kind of snacks do you like? Do you like apples? Normally, in this kind of environment, Balar would have flown into a rage on the spot. But for his lovely wife, Balar decided from now on that his favorite fruit was apples. Yume cheerfully pulled him along to buy apples. Balar really liked her this way. In reality, Yume was extremely upset inside. Everyone was looking at Balar with fearful eyes, but he had clearly protected them during times of danger. Not only were they not grateful, they were afraid and even isolated him. This truly saddened Yume. Balar copied his wife and took out an apple, but was suddenly stopped by her. Wait a moment. Yume shyly took Baslar's apple. She took out a handkerchief and gently wiped it for him. Balar was very confused. He just stared foolishly as his wife smiled happily. Yume thought with a pout. He actually smiled. After wiping the apple clean, she handed it back to Balar. I heard that apples prepared this way taste better. The amount of food a person eats in a day is fixed. I think it would be better if we could eat delicious food. Balar stared blankly at the apple in his hand, which his wife had polished until it shone. He thought to himself, this is probably what people call happiness. The two of them simultaneously lifted the apples to their mouths. Yume secretly observed Balar, feeling it was time to try some interaction between lovers. Balar happened to turn his head to look at her. Yume was a little nervous, but she still smiled and gave him a big, gentle wink. Balar had never seen such a gesture before. The apple he was eating almost choked him. Yume hurriedly patted his shoulder. Are you okay? Should I get you some water? What did I just see? If that wasn't a hallucination. Though my wife was clearly winking at me. But isn't winking a sign of affection for someone you like? My subordinates, in order to get women to look at them more, would wink. But the result was always them getting kicked. But now my wife is winking at me. Balar turned his head to look, wanting to confirm it again, but she shyly avoided his gaze. Baslar's heart tingled. He felt he couldn't just let it go. He had to confirm it. He grabbed Yume's hand. What did you just do? What? Balar actually asked so directly. Yume's brain turned to mush. She stammered, not knowing how to answer. The girl, wearing pajamas, opens her husband's room. With tears in her eyes, she was crying her heart out. The man carried her to the bed, but she wouldn't let go, clinging to him for even a second. He glanced down, his cheeks burning redder and redder. It seemed his wife wasn't wearing anything under her cloak. Baslar's heart tingled. He angrily grabbed Yume's hand. What did you just do? This plot development was completely different from what Yume had imagined. She stammered, not knowing how to answer. In a panic, she could only say her stomach hurt. But as soon as she said it, she regretted it. If she said her stomach hurt, wouldn't Balar be even more worried? So she explained again that it wasn't like that. It was because the apple was so delicious that for a moment, she mistook it for a stomachache. Yume felt like dying. Why did she have to do that just now? She couldn't possibly tell the truth, and Balar didn't seem to like it very much. On the side, Balar was speechless with himself. Who was he to dare expect his wife to take the initiative? He turned and stared intently at Yume. Yume, nervous, kept fiddling with the apple in her hand. Both of them were lost in their own little thoughts. That night, Yume soaked in the bathtub, starting to recall the day's events. The more she thought about it, the more surprised she was. Balar had actually believed her so easily. Her absurd explanation that it was a frown, not a wink. He even accepted an explanation that, frankly, she didn't believe herself. She guessed he was just pretending, wanting to avoid the topic. But Yume really hoped he was a fool, one who couldn't tell the difference between a frown and a wink. But if he knew she was being coquettish and just pretended not to see, wouldn't that mean this path was also a dead end? Yume's mood sank into gloom again. The surroundings were eerily quiet. She suddenly remembered Baslar's words, the female ghost will, that target women who are alone and take over their bodies. Just thinking about this sent a chill down her spine. Because the number of personnel entering the inner castle was reduced, only 5 people could now freely enter and exit the inner grounds. Under Anna's supervision, the few maids would only come into work in the early morning. Moreover, Anna should be outside preparing dinner now. Maidalai had also long since gone off duty. As for Zalt, he would never come to this area. This meant she was all alone here now. The more Yume thought about it, the colder her back felt. She threw on a cloak and quickly ran to Baslar's room. By the time she opened the door, tears had been streaming down her face the whole way. Balar looked at her strangely, but Yume just kept crying without saying a word. Balar awkwardly comforted her. Don't cry. Helpless, he had no choice but to carry his wife to the bed. Just as he sat down, wondering what happened, Yume scrambled off the bed again and sat down, pressing her body tightly against his. Balar glanced down. His wife was soaking wet. Large patches of skin were exposed. All he could see on her was the cloak. Balar suddenly realized his wife didn't seem to be wearing any clothes. His face instantly turned red. He shyly turned his head away. If I ask her now what she's wearing under her cloak, she'll definitely call me a pervert. No, I can't ask that. Balar took deep breaths, trying to calm himself down. What were you doing just now? Yume was bewildered by his strange question. With a baffled expression, she replied, just taking a bath. So she was taking a bath. Balar pretended to be calm on the surface, but inside, he was wildly excited. Why did she come in my room dressed like this? He really wanted to ask his wife why she was crying. But thinking of what he'd said during the day, he was afraid he would scare his wife away. He could only sit quietly beside her. Yume cried until she was tired and started to doze off. She leaned on Basler's shoulder, about to fall asleep. The corners of Basler's mouth curled up slightly. He silently mocked her. See, you cried so hard just now. You have no energy left, right? I carried you to the bed, but you insisted on sticking close to me. Are you cold? I see you're still wrapped in your cloak. At first, Yume didn't react, still groggy. But after a moment's thought, her whole body felt like it was on fire. Speaking of which, I left in such a hurry. I'm not wearing anything under the cloak. Am I crazy? How could I forget that? From the look on Basler's face, he must have noticed something. What if he thinks I'm a pervert? Ugh, how did it turn into this? The moment his wife smiled, the man almost couldn't suppress the beast in his heart, wanting to pounce on his delicate little wife and make her cry. To make her want to cling to him at all times. He really was a true psychopath. Yume was reminded about her clothes by Balar. She almost fainted from embarrassment. Afraid the man would misunderstand that she had ulterior motives, she stared at him gloomily. Balar got up and walked to the fireplace. The fire was a bit small. He poked at the firewood inside. Yume instantly breathed a sigh of relief. It seems he doesn't know. But then Balar became gloomy again. His delicate little wife was crying pitifully just a moment ago. Now, she suddenly looked as if she had come to some conclusion. She was actually smiling. To be honest, if she had kept crying, his heart would have been heavy. But she just had to smile happily. He really wanted to go over and make her cry, make her cling to him. This paranoid, wicked taste was a bit terrifying. Balar didn't dare let Yume find out. A new day. The sun rose on time again. Zalt knocked on the Lord Commander's door, as usual. There was no answer from inside. He took it upon himself to open the door. Unexpectedly, he immediately spotted the shimmering golden hair by the bed. He instantly had a bad feeling, and a cold sweat broke out on his body. In the end, he was kicked away. Balar came to the door with a gloomy face. What is it? Lord Commander, in the north, a witch matching the description has appeared. However, the witches don't dare to reveal their identities easily. It's not easy for us to find them. We are still tracking them. Balar picked up the report Zalt brought. It recorded that half a month ago, near the southern city wall, several merchants had witnessed that witch. Her entire body was wrapped in bandages, her face, hair, and fingers all covered. She disappeared after his wedding. As far as Balar knew, a few among the witches desired eternal life. They would discard their already decaying bodies and find a vibrant new body to enter. If her target is Siloan's body, then she won't be thinking of returning to her original one. Zalt, find her as soon as possible. Even if it's difficult, you must find that witch. I don't care if she's already dead or hidden by her family. You must find her for me. As long as I can bind my wife to my side, what does it matter if I have to be a little humble? No matter what her past was, or what purpose she had in approaching me. If she wants to escape, I need to find her weakness. Zalt accepted the order with difficulty. Looking at the Lord Commander's expression, he could already feel his madness. It will be half a month soon. He was really worried about Basler's state. Perhaps before then, he would have to invite Her Majesty the Empress over. Otherwise, with just Anna and those soldiers. Zalt didn't know what would happen. What's more, if the Grand Duchess, who looks like she could be blown over by a gust of wind, were to see it, Zalt couldn't guarantee her safety. Maybe I should send her outside the city. But if the Lord Commander found out, he would search for her like a madman. That result might be even worse. But if the Grand Duchess were to stop the frenzied Lord Commander, it might just work. Then I might as well create as many opportunities as possible for them to be together. It seems I need to go find the Lord Commander now. Balar ruthlessly shut the door, his gaze immediately fixed on his wife, sleeping on the bed. Fortunately, his wife was sleeping soundly and hadn't been woken up. Looking down, he again saw her exposed thigh. I was right, she came here naked. But this is really too shameless. She's not even afraid. Sleeping so defenselessly on my big bed. Or maybe I should just... Balar thought nervously, an evil idea forming in his mind. But looking at his sweetly sleeping wife, he gave up on the wild thought. Huffing, he helped Yume by covering her with 3 layers of blankets. Only when he could only see her head peeking out did he finally breathe a sigh of relief. I should go take a cold shower to calm myself down. As soon as Balar left, Yume woke up. She didn't expect him to actually go and take a shower just like that. Actually, because she was afraid of ghosts, her nerves were unusually sensitive. She had woken up when the door opened, but she just pretended to be asleep, staying obediently under the covers. When Balar was staring at her just now, she almost thought they were going to kiss. She was even complaining in her heart that the progress was a bit fast. She was so excited she almost cried out. But it was a good thing she didn't, or she would have died of embarrassment. Yume rolled around on the bed shyly. Calming down, she felt a little angry because Balar hadn't touched her. The room fell quiet for a moment. Yume felt panicked inside. She wrapped herself in a small blanket and slowly moved like a little turtle to the bathroom door. If a ghost really appeared, by moving to the door, she could quickly pull it open the moment Nephili appeared. The man had told a despicable lie, just to stick close to his foolish wife. But this led to his wife being scared to death even when they were in the same room, waiting obediently outside the door wrapped in a blanket like a turtle. But his originally calm heart grew more and more restless the more he washed. Cold water splashed over his body in large amounts. Balar frowned in annoyance. To be honest, for a powerhouse like him, that even when bathing in his room, he could sense the presence outside the building. And now, he could already feel it. His wife. She should be right behind that door. So now, no matter how much cold water he splashed on himself, Balar couldn't calm down at all. Is she trying to drain me dry? Staying outside the door, trembling, pitifully saying she's afraid of Nephili, afraid of ghosts. When Balar thought of these scenes, he let out a wicked chuckle. Just how scared is she for her voice to tremble like that? She's really cute. If I open the door now, I should run into her, right? But meeting her in a bathrobe so early in the morning, we really look like a married couple. Balar opened the bathroom door. Just as he had guessed, his wife was still there. She was sniffling pitifully. The moment she saw Balar, she looked extremely wronged, and tears flowed freely as if they cost nothing. Yume, curled up, looked like a tiny bean, a stark contrast to his own tall figure. Basler's face turned red like a fool. Yume returned to her own room and stayed with Anna. But she couldn't feel happy at all. She was afraid of ghosts. During the day, she could just stay outside the inner castle. But at night, she was left all alone. She couldn't live like this at all. Anna noticed her low spirits. Approached with concern to ask, "What are you worried about?" "Actually, I'm a little afraid of ghosts. The kind who are terrified of ghosts and spirits. I've heard the story of Nephili. The thought of being alone, that the ghost might target my body, makes me very worried. Your Highness, I think you've misunderstood. Nephili is a ghost with a master. She is very polite and respects life. She is recognized by everyone for her loyalty. Your Highness, you have absolutely no need to be afraid of her. Besides, ghosts and spirits all stick to their own territories, including the inner and outer city. The entirety of Beliaster is Nephili's domain. Without her permission, no other ghosts will appear. So you have no reason to be afraid at all." Hearing Anna's words, Yume was completely dumbfounded. No wonder Balar was so shocked when he found out I was afraid of ghosts. Could it be that the ghosts and spirits here, and the Nephili I imagined, are different from the vengeful ghosts I had in mind? Your Highness, Nephili is very kind and a bit cautious. If she knew your Highness was afraid of her, she wouldn't approach you. In other words, the ghosts here are like mammals and birds, a type of life form, and they're even obedient. If that's the case, it seems they're really not that scary. Then back then, when I was so scared in front of Balar, how ridiculous must I have looked in his eyes? He must have been laughing his head off at me. Balar is really too mean. He clearly knew everything, yet he pretended not to. Sobi unforgivable. Yume was fuming inside, wanting to go and confront Balar right now. But it was already dark, too late. She had an appointment with Basler's sister for dinner today. She had to seize the opportunity to make a good impression on her. She would find him later. "Anna, help me get ready." Zania was waiting in the living room for Balar and the others early on. "Hello, have we kept you waiting long?" "No, it's fine." Zania stood up immediately upon hearing the voice. The way she smiled was very similar to Balar. Yume had a very good impression of her. "This is wonderful. We can watch the stars and moon today." Seeing his wife being so enthusiastic towards his sister, Basler's mood soured, and he frowned. His eyes secretly stared at her. Yume was furious inside. She jabbed him hard in the side with her elbow. Faced with his wife's unprovoked cold shoulder, Balar was completely baffled. If she didn't know Balar wouldn't harm her, Yume wouldn't have let him off so easily. Getting on good terms with his sister was more important for now. I saw a butterfly not long ago. I feel like the trees are about to sprout. Summer in the north must be cool too, right? I'm so looking forward to it. It's really magical. Yume chattered on and on beside Zania. This time, she didn't feel any aversion at all. Although during her first meetings in the capital, she would also encounter various noble ladies trying to strike up a conversation. But as soon as her gaze swept over them, they would quickly become too scared of her to speak. Occasionally, there were those who would pester her to the end. Without exception, they were all flattering her with an ulterior motive. But the Yume of now gave her a completely different feeling. She didn't know if she was foolish or just naive. Even her fool of a younger brother was like a loyal dog, obediently following behind her. It was really quite amusing. Yes, I'm also looking forward to this summer. Zania extended her hand to Yume. This not only shocked Balar, but also made him panic. It was his first marriage, yet because his wife was giving him the cold shoulder, he had been sullen all along, even fearing his sister would steal her attention. He abruptly grabbed his wife's hand and made an early exit. Balar clearly knew that ghosts were normal creatures in this world, yet he still deliberately scared Yume. A surge of anger rose in Yume's heart. She shot him a fierce glare. Balar was full of questions. Yume ran ahead to her sister, and the two of them chatted and laughed cheerfully. On the surface, Balar calmly peeled the shrimp, but inside he was sullen. Salen hasn't made eye contact with me all day. Her attitude towards me has also been perfunctory and dismissive. It must be because of my sister. Since it's their first meeting today, she's being more cautious. Balar placed the peeled shrimp on his wife's plate. Yume didn't give him any response. Instead, she started chatting with his sister. What kind of place is the capital? It's also a place where people live. Nothing special, but there must be many beautiful swordswomen in the capital, and you can see many precious things. Balar stared blankly as Yume spoke. Then what is your hometown like? My hometown is in the southwest. There are a lot of flowers there. Yume spoke too quickly and blurted out her true thoughts. Although she had just said the Southwest, it wasn't a location in this world. That was the Southwest where she lived now. Because she was reminded of her hometown in her original world, Yume's mood soured. Balar found her answer very cute. So reckless, completely forgetting her amnesiac persona. As soon as he discovered his wife wasn't the real Salen, he had done a detailed investigation into her life. Out of Yume's sight, Basler's lips quietly curled into a suppressed smile. However, he was more worried about his sister now. He didn't know how much his sister knew about his wife's situation. If she found out Salen's identity was a witch, it would be disastrous. One must know that the power a witch possesses is the sum of the power of ancient demons on this continent, maintained at a stable level. Therefore, for a witch to become more powerful, she must kill others of her kind to obtain their power. According to the information Balar currently had, his sister had already eaten nearly 200 witches. No one knew how strong her power was. But once his sister was no longer satisfied with her current power, she would very likely target his wife. If that happened, it would be troublesome. Balar, afraid his wife would expose her identity in front of his sister, immediately grabbed Yume's hand and led her away. That's enough for today. He tossed out this cold sentence and hastily pulled Yume out of the room. He looked down at his wife and saw she was unhappy, so he thought of saying something to distract her. Who knew that just one question would make his wife fly into a rage? You're asking if I've grown taller? Do you think I'm still in a growth spurt? Balar anxiously tried to explain that's not it, but his fuming wife completely ignored him and walked away on her own. Balar was about to get depressed. He had just wanted to say she looked like a mature woman, but felt it was inappropriate and rephrased the question. Now his wife had stormed off in anger. Yume was really angry. Although she knew she was much shorter than Balar, that was also because she was afraid of being too tall. Besides, she was wearing high heels and a sexy outfit today, and he didn't even know how to praise her. During dinner, when he peeled the shrimp for her, Yume had been planning to forgive him for what he did before. But now he was saying she was small. In his heart, was she just a little kid who hadn't grown up? So infuriating. After Balar left the dining room, Zalt came before Zania. Zalt broke out in a cold sweat, keeping his distance from her. Zania was a bit impatient and told him to get to the point. It's about something else. In 2 days, could your majesty stay by Her Highness the Grand Duchess's side? Why should I do that? Give me a reason. Zalt didn't expect the Empress to refuse so quickly, but he had to get an affirmative answer. What should I do now? Even if I shamelessly beg, she probably won't agree. So, Your Majesty the Empress, what will it take for you to agree? Zania thought carefully. There was nothing she wanted except for that one thing. And so, as Zalt waited nervously, She spoke. Then tell me, why is Balar looking for a witch? What? Her Majesty the Empress already knows? It seems I must be more cautious. I can't casually mention anything about Her Highness the Grand Duchess. I heard that not long ago, a strange person came near the castle, completely wrapped in bandages, looking very odd. While investigating this person, we discovered a large number of traded witch-related items at the entrance of the Snowy Mountain. After that, we deduced that the strange person is a witch. We are currently tracking her. Zinnia already knew everything Zalt was saying. Although he had reversed the cause and effect, Zinnia had no intention of revealing herself. I don't really believe what you're saying. I am, however, interested in Basler's soul sphere. Zalt, so, is Balar raising a witch? The man lay leisurely on the sofa, the smile on his face an unconcealable happiness. Because his wife was afraid of ghosts, he was foolishly waiting in his room. But just then, his subordinate urgently knocked on his window. Zalt, Balar is raising a witch, isn't he? So he wants to catch other witches to use as food for her. Zalt really hadn't expected Her Majesty the Empress to have obtained so much information. He deeply regretted coming to visit. Thinking back, she had come to the north right when the master developed killing intent. Looking at it now, it was clearly no coincidence. And the way she was staring at him now, full of confidence, wasn't an expectation of his answer at all. Instead, it was as if she already knew everything. She was just testing Zalt now. Analyzing it step by step, he began to panic. We're doomed. Balar, in his room, was completely unaware of everything Zalt was going through. He lay on the sofa in a wonderful mood, recalling his time with his wife during the day. His lips couldn't help but curl upwards in a chuckle. Although she got very angry, she's so afraid of Nephili that she should come to my room tonight. Just the thought of being in the same space as his wife made Scarface incredibly excited. However, a knocking sound came from the window. It was Zalt. Master, Her Majesty the Empress has planted many spies in the north. She knows everything about us, acquiring the soul sphere and searching for the witch. Oh, I suppose so. Balar didn't seem surprised by this, treating it as an insignificant matter. Zalt was worried sick. Master, if this goes on, the Empress will sooner or later discover that Her Highness is a witch. Give the order now. As long as you permit it, I will go to the Imperial Palace and kidnap Her Majesty the Empress's precious darling, the Crown Prince. Zalt, calm down. My sister has appeared. Do you think I wouldn't have countermeasures? I've already used a very reasonable excuse to formally invite the Crown Prince. He is expected to arrive within 10 days. In the letter sent to the south, Balar wrote this. The Empress, concerned for her younger brother, came to Beliaster. Because she could not adapt to the cold weather of the north, she has caught a severe cold. She is now hovering on the brink of life and death. During this time, she has been constantly calling the Crown Prince's name. If you are her biological son, you must come see her at once. Balar had lied to a 14-year-old child, but the trouble was His Majesty the Emperor would very likely become suspicious of Scarface. But he was the one who understood his sister best. As long as it was something she wanted, she would stop at nothing to get it. Balar had to prepare the relevant countermeasures before she developed a greater interest in his wife. Although doing so was very cold-hearted, getting the Crown Prince over here was crucial. For the sake of her precious son, my sister won't act rashly. Zalt, you must quickly find that which wrapped in strange bandages. Be discreet. Don't let my sister gather any more intelligence. Yes, master. By the way, how has your sister Maidalai been doing recently? Balar was very annoyed. She always interrupted when he was spending time with his wife. Zalt was full of questions. He didn't know why the master suddenly asked about this. Zalt's expression clearly showed there was no problem. Balar was very unhappy. He had almost been able to send Maidalai away on the pretext of recuperation. Zalt looked at the worried expression on his face. He mistakenly thought that because of love, his master had learned to be considerate of others. He was incredibly moved. In fact, his sister Maidalai was the person he cherished most in this world, just like how the Empress treasured her Crown Prince. Sobi. It seems His Highness has gained a touch of humanity after meeting his beloved. This is wonderful. Our North has finally welcomed its own spring. Your Highness, thank you for your concern. She's been in good condition recently. She is very fond of Her Highness. She also likes to be active, so she'll soon be able to stop recuperating and resume her duties. Scarface found Zalt to be baffling. Suddenly, he missed his wife terribly. Yume was standing on her room's balcony, watching the stars. It was an excellent viewing spot. However, when she looked down, Balar was below, taking a stroll on his black horse. Yume couldn't help but stop and observe him closely. She was very satisfied with her husband. He was the most handsome man in the world. But speaking of which, she thought of her former fiancé, Rowan. Back when she didn't understand Balar, Rowan had likely been dealt with by him. But after spending so much time with him, she felt that Balar was a very kind and a gentle man. Although he could be clueless at times, he was still very good at taking care of people. Back then, Yume had also received an anklet from Balar. She was still wearing it on her ankle to this day. Because it was a gift from Balar, she really wanted to store it away safely, but she couldn't find a clasp. To this day, she still didn't know how to take it off. Oh well, I'll ask Balar later. Although he's awkward and loves to joke around, he is, after all, a very good husband. He wasn't the type of person to hurt others without reason. It was very likely he just sent Rowan back to his hometown. But where did the real Salen's soul go? All of this should have belonged to her. But now I want to stay here forever. Am I being too greedy? Yume, troubled by the matter of her identity, suddenly became distressed on the balcony. What she didn't know was that Scarface had waited for her in his room all night. They had only been apart for just over 1,400 minutes. Scarface was going crazy from missing his wife, although it was already late at night. It couldn't stop him from riding his great white horse to sneak a peek at his wife. Scarface stared from a distance below. The happiness at the corner of his mouth couldn't be suppressed even with an AK-47, because that beautiful witch with ice blue eyes was his wife. Most importantly, she would come to his bedroom at night. But in reality, even though she had agreed, Balar waited in his bedroom all night and his wife never came. He waited irritably in the dining hall. He believed that with such a grand display, his wife would see him. Sure enough, it wasn't long before Yume appeared in the dining hall. She happily asked Scarface how he slept last night. Because he had waited for his wife all night, Scarface looked very tired. He asked his wife aggrievedly, "Why didn't you come last night?" Yume was a bit baffled. "I thought you would come to my place to hide from Nephili." Speaking of Nephili, Yume angrily took a few steps back. "I'd forgotten until you brought it up. It's you who keeps talking about Nephili to me, making those kinds of jokes that scare me. It's really too much. You must apologize to me." Yume's face was now full of displeasure. Scarface didn't dare to anger his sweet-smelling wife. He obediently lowered his head and apologized. "I'm sorry, I was wrong." Fearing it wasn't sincere enough, he said sorry twice in a row. Yume secretly stared at him. Actually, she had already calmed down, but seeing Balar respectfully apologizing, looking all restless, she was actually in a very good mood. But Yume didn't want to bully him for too long, or Balar would be too pitiful. So she generously extended her hand. "Please take me to the market fountain." Scarface was as happy as a fool. His wife treating him like this was as if she were treating him like an ordinary night. Scarface was so happy he was bubbling over. He bent his knee and knelt on the ground. He took his wife's hand and went to the fountain market. Both of them tacitly said nothing, but the sickeningly sweet smell of love around them could be smelled from a great distance. The Emperor's sister quietly observed them from a window. She watched with great interest. "How was the investigation going?" "My apologies. Their movements have become secretive since early this morning. The investigation is now proceeding very slowly. Although Balar looks foolish, he has, after all, been through the battlefield. If Zania were to let those northern guys handle the witch, they would probably only conduct a rough investigation. In the end, it would still rely on Basler's overwhelming power to sweep it all away. He would not only cut off the intelligence, but also completely cover up the matter. Zania was really fed up with this meddlesome younger brother. Compared to her stinky brother, she quite liked Yume, this sister-in-law. So small and seemingly fragile. Her smiling face was like an angel's, harmless to humans and animals. "Deban, you go find the witch. From Beliaster Castle to within Beliaster. From the eternal snow mountain to the central border. Don't miss the villages bordering the mines." Although Zalt is trying very hard to hide it, compared to those old foxes in the royal court, he's still too green. And from the looks of it, there's an 80 chance the witch is hidden somewhere here. My brother is really something, daring to raise a witch right under my nose. I'll just consider this a gift from you to your older sister. I will be sure to enjoy it thoroughly. Balar, let's go back to the residence. Yume skipped and sang as she walked ahead of Scarface. Both of them were in a great mood. However, upon seeing the exquisite accessories at a small stall, Yume couldn't walk away. Scarface followed his wife's gaze to the shop, puzzled. It turned out to be a blue hairpin. He secretly glanced at his wife, but Yume only took one look and turned away. Scarface didn't understand why his wife liked it, but didn't buy it. And her hair was long. She really needed something like this. However, just as he was about to follow his wife, he was suddenly grabbed tightly from behind. He was about to get angry, wondering who was causing trouble, but when he turned his head, he was stunned. "Buy it, you idiot." The Empress' sister glared fiercely at her straight-laced younger brother. She really had to worry about everything for him. Fortunately, under her death glare, Scarface bought the hair accessory. Then he quickly caught up with his wife. "How are you back so soon? I saw you were just chatting with your sister, so I didn't call out." Scarface was relieved to hear her explanation. Good, he wasn't the only one being wary. "Where did my sister go now? Why are you curious about that?" "Actually, I'm quite concerned. I don't know how to treat people of high status, if you don't mind. So, should we invite your sister to our home? After all, she's family who has come from afar." Seeing his wife's consideration for his sister, Scarface felt inexplicably happy again. "My wife really considers me family. It's so heartwarming. I don't mind. Then I'll go talk to my sister." The man married without being in love. After spending less than a day with his little wife, he had fallen for her. But even now, he was still living separately from his little wife. He was unhappy. His wife was so cute yesterday. Whatever she requested, Balar would agree without thinking. However, he never expected that she would proactively offer to invite his witch sister. It was crazy. His sister was an evil witch, a walking disaster. He was actually going to personally bring her before Yume. But his wife was so cute yesterday. Scarface really couldn't bring himself to refuse. But wait, maybe he could use this opportunity to propose sleeping in the same room as his wife. When sleeping, he could also be pressed tightly against her. This was definitely not his own selfish desire. It was all to protect his little bunny wife from being harmed by the vicious witch. Yes, that's it. Under his own successful self-brainwashing, Scarface decided to do just that. Soon, he knocked on Yume's door. Yume walked over in her pajamas. The visitor was Balar. She was a little shy, stammering for him to come in. As it turned out, Scarface also became shy after sitting down, hesitating, not knowing how to begin. Just then, Anna suddenly offered a greeting, which nearly scared the soul out of him. Anna looked at them staring at each other. The scene was very awkward. "Pardon the intrusion. I'll come back later." After Anna left, they fell into silence again. In the end, it was Yume who broke the deadlock. "Have a seat." She put on a conservative robe, sitting nervously across from Balar. She thought something major had happened, but it turned out to be about her wanting to invite his sister during the day. Yume's tense heart instantly relaxed. So when is she coming? Because of this simple sentence, the atmosphere between them became sweet again. "I'm not sure if she will come. We'll have to wait for Zalt to return to know. But if my sister is going to stay in the inner city for a while, we'll have to temporarily stay in one bedroom." Yume found this request very sudden. Although Zania is my sister, after her marriage, she has always been an enemy of the imperial family. She's not the type to gossip, but I think if she sees us maintaining a strict separation between sexes, it won't do us any good. Don't worry too much, though. I think it's very likely my sister won't come. At first, when Balar proposed they live together, she thought he liked her. But unexpectedly, she had overthought it again. Yume was dejected. She wanted to cry, but she didn't dare let herself. Basler's eyes were fixed on his wife. It seems her mood worsened as soon as I made the request to live together. As expected, no one can accept sleeping in the same room as a monster. Although my wife is pitiful, I don't want to back down at all. Besides, she didn't refuse me. Another knock came from the room's main door. Balar stood up first. "I'll get it, you stay seated." Unexpectedly, the visitor was Zalt. "Master, what on earth did you write in the letter?" "Her Majesty the Empress says she's coming to the inner city tomorrow." What else could I write? I just said the Grand Duchess wished for her to come to the inner city and asked if she had any intention of doing so. So, she said she's coming tomorrow. Fine. After hearing this, Balar irritably shut the door at once. Luckily, Zalt blocked the door with his foot. "Tomorrow is the 15th. I'm worried about you, Master." "Master, you're not planning to let Her Majesty the Empress stay in the inner city indefinitely, are you?" "It doesn't matter to me, but please think about it, Master." Yume heard her name and looked up. "If we let the Empress stay in the inner city, it's like putting a vulture in a yard where squirrels are being raised." Zalt didn't dare to imagine such consequences. "Tomorrow is the 15th. Zalt, I will be sleeping in the same room as the Grand Duchess. Go tell Anna. Have her move the Grand Duchess's things to my room. Go now." Balar ruthlessly kicked Zalt out. The person who just came was Zalt. He said, "My sister will be coming to the inner castle tomorrow. I've already sent people to move your things. Before they finish, shall we go out for a walk?" Yume responded dazedly. The ever-so-attentive Balar still noticed the water droplets on her hair. You'll catch a cold if you go like this. Hand me the towel. This was the first time Balar had ever helped her dry her hair. Yume was extremely shy. A strange, sweet feeling arose in her heart. It was so sweet, as if tonight were their wedding night, making her feel expectant. The young couple was sharing a room for the first time. Both of them seemed very excited. Little Scarface was so nervous he couldn't even stay in the same room because his heart felt like it was about to explode. Balar thoughtfully helped his wife dry the ends of her damp hair. Yume's recent unhappiness vanished in an instant. Her entire heart was soothed by the man's gentleness. She even began to look forward to their wedding night tonight. Little Scarface nervously gazed at his wife. Because she was just too beautiful, it made him want to take the opportunity to do something mischievous. His hand quietly picked up a lock of his wife's hair. Who knew that Yume would playfully turn her head? It tickles. Little Scarface, having failed at his mischief, was startled. He raised his hands, completely flustered. "Sorry, I didn't hurt you, did I?" Yume was amused by his silly appearance and chuckled. It didn't hurt. Instead, she felt his gentleness and attentiveness. In this comfortable atmosphere, Yume once again felt her heart flutter like a fawn. After returning from their walk outside, it was time for bed. Yume looked around the man's room. It didn't look much different from before, except for the addition of her wardrobe and dressing table. But the thought of what was to come made her very excited. Perhaps the man would be as gentle as when he dried her hair. If he was that gentle every night, Yume thought she might die from her heart beating too fast. But why wasn't Balar coming in yet? Yume's gaze fell on little Scarface, who was standing dejectedly by the door. I have to go somewhere. You should sleep first." Yume was completely bewildered. Her earlier excitement vanished. It seemed their night together was ruined. Balar didn't feel much better. He was so nervous that he simply couldn't stay in the same room with his wife. If this continued, his heart would explode. No, he had to go see his sister first. Balar left the room without a second thought, leaving Yume behind to let her imagination run wild again. She really hated this kind of dense man, so annoying and terrible. The more Yume thought about it, the more wrong she felt, and fragile tears began to fall. Why do I like a man like this? Balar knocked on his sister's door. He strode inside. The room was unlit but filled with the strong scent of herbs. What is it? Balar hesitated, not knowing how to begin. If you don't speak, how am I supposed to know what you want? The killing intent is hereditary in our family, right? I think you spent more time with our parents than I did, sister. Have you heard anything about it? Zania was stunned for 2 seconds listening to her brother's words, then turned to look at Balar. Do you still remember the story of the witch of Beliaster and the Nephilim? Isn't that what Mother often told us to lull us to sleep when we were children? Yes, it has been passed down for so long, it's like a founding myth. When the first Grand Duke, Vidas, first came to the north, a witch and the 2 Nephilim brothers were already living here. They were very friendly to Vidas and quickly became good friends, laying the foundation for the future development of the North. The Nephilim and the witch were fundamentally different. As half-breeds born of a Croton and a human woman, they both inherited the Croton's power. Our family was the first to receive help from such a supernatural being. After your killing intent first manifested, we investigated everything possibly related to it. But it was as if someone had hidden it all. We couldn't find any clues. In this country, the average age for noblemen to marry is between 24 and 28. But our family generally marries around the age of 28, which is very different from a norm. Don't you find that strange, Balar? Besides, the myth later says that the witch fell in love with Vidas, and that's where the tragedy began. The witch's love was frantic. But later, Vidas held a wedding with another woman. She felt angry and betrayed. She even placed a vicious curse to destroy Vidas. Fortunately, not everyone disapproved of Vidas's marriage. The steady older brother, Nephilim, blessed them. The mischievous younger brother, out of curiosity about their ceremony, was eventually discovered by Vidas and given a stern scolding. Because there was no ill intent, Vidas forgave the younger brother. But to express his apology, the younger brother cast a spell on them, which happened to counteract the witch's curse. So, the heir of the Beliaster family gets a fiancée around the age of 10. If the curse appears, a wedding is held immediately. If they spend their first night together, the curse will disappear without exception. Speaking of the first night, Balar felt a bit troubled. Zania knew her brother hadn't been able to lift the curse so quickly. A big reason was the result of spending a long time on the battlefield. But just when she knew everything, Balar announced his retirement at that time and immediately chose to marry. Zania thought his curse would be lifted right away, so she never took the initiative to contact him. Sister, are you talking about marriage and the first night? To be precise, it's the wedding ceremony and the first night. So, have you still not spent the first night with your sister-in-law? The handsome puppy Grand Duke, because of his monstrous appearance, was afraid his ugliness would scare his cute little wife, and so hadn't been able to complete their wedding night even after months of marriage. His enthusiastic yet cruel sister found out and decided to help them. Balar, due to the family's ancestral curse, would have his heart filled with killing intent on the night of the full moon. Moreover, it specifically stimulated his body's most instinctive, brutal desires. But once dawn broke, that damned killing intent would recede. A sober Balar felt extremely powerless. Unable to suppress his impulses, he was terrified he would become a monster. Only by spending the first night with his little wife would the curse disappear completely. Balar was truly astonished by this method, but thinking about the first night and all, he and Selûne haven't even kissed. Zania looked coldly at the silent, head-bowed Balar. Her mother's childhood romance already made her roll her eyes, but now this brother of hers was exactly like their parents. Since he was her own brother, she decided to help him out. I'll try to make something to help you get through tomorrow night smoothly. Balar was moved to death. He looked pitifully at Zania. Zania couldn't stand such a foolish expression. She waved her hand, urging her silly brother to leave quickly. Back in his room, Balar stared at Selûne on the bed. She lay on the bed, a small figure. Looking closely, there were still undried tears on Selûne's face. The foolish Balar thought she was just unwilling to sleep in the same bed with him. But what he couldn't understand was that Selûne hadn't refused his request. Maybe she was using that as an excuse, but she would accept him. Balar quietly berated himself for such an improper thought. Thinking of something, he took out the gift from his chest. He had originally wanted to give it to Selûne right away, but the wrapping paper was ruined. He then thought of his wretched self, foolishly believing that just as Selûne disliked him, she would dislike it too. Balar secretly lifted Selûne's hair. He gently caressed it. Even if the curse could never be lifted, he would be content as long as Selûne stayed by his side. Realizing his own strange behavior, he stood up in a panic. Like a thief afraid of being discovered by the owner, he scurried away. Selûne opened her eyes, her face blushing. She couldn't believe it. Balar had actually been messing with her hair. What was this that he had left behind? Selûne opened the package. It was the hair ornament she had seen at the market that day. Selûne excitedly put the ornament in her hair. Just a moment ago, she had been sad because the man had run away. Now, she suddenly felt that Balar liked her. She shyly thought that she should be more proactive. The door banged open from the outside. Balar strode toward Selûne. Selûne felt extremely awkward. She had just been pacing around the room, her face bright red. She didn't know how much the man had seen. "You're awake?" Selûne lowered her head and grabbed Basler's clothes. This time, she decided to take the initiative. But just as she was about to act cute, she didn't know how to start. Her brain paused for a moment. Then she launched a pitiful-looking offensive at Balar. Unexpectedly, Balar had no reaction at all. In fact, he looked as if he had received some kind of shock, appearing utterly stunned. Selûne was completely deflated. Balar touched her forehead. "Aren't you cold?" "It's fine." Selûne, somewhat agitated, dodged his touch. However, Balar helped her pull the blanket up again. "Your clothes are thin. This will be a little warmer." Only after doing all this did Basler's heart settle down. From Selûne's behavior just now, he thought she had developed aphasia from shock. Her speech was also not the same as usual. The straight-laced man, Balar, was still trying to figure out what was going on. But his heart felt tight. He thought his wife was very cute like this. Selûne's attempt to act cute was unexpectedly successful. In the Beliaster inner castle, Zania secretly summoned Anna. She had sent her out back then to support her brother. And for this meeting, she hoped to meet Selûne alone through Anna. The tongue-tied Grand Duke finally managed to say words of praise. No matter what pose his wife struck, his muddled head nodded frantically. He even changed his previous foolishness and bravely confessed. Back in her early 20s, Anna had followed Zania to the capital and successfully joined the Empire's Royal Knights. Before that, her goal had always been to help Zania get revenge. However, after the revenge was complete, Anna received a new assignment. Zania learned that her brother Balar was still alive. Without hesitation, she dispatched Anna to Beliaster to assist Balar. So, in order to go to Beliaster smoothly, Anna deliberately got injured and left the Knights. Seeing her former master again, Zania was unchanged as always. She always moved forward towards what she wanted to do. Her influence on Anna's life was the greatest. Anna had even said she would serve her for a lifetime. And even if she had to choose again now, Xenia would be the first person she considered at any crossroad for the rest of her life. Selwyn wore the hair ornament Balar bought, feeling very happy. The man on the sofa stared intently at her. This made Selwyn want to know his thoughts. Is it pretty? Balar didn't speak, just nodded his head repeatedly. For such a question, his answer was very obvious. His wife was always the most beautiful. Selwyn was delighted by Basler's reaction. Thank you. This hair ornament is so beautiful. The hair ornament is beautiful. He was clearly talking about the person, but Selwyn said it was the hair ornament. Balar had to get serious. I nodded because I was saying you were beautiful, not the hair ornament. Hearing such a direct and clear compliment, Selwyn felt like she was about to explode. She blushed outrageously. She was so nervous, she started pacing around. Balar watched his wife's dazed look, his heart pounding. Then, he uncontrollably drifted in front of Selwyn. His hand gently caressed the girl's face. Do you really not know how beautiful you are? However, at the critical moment, Zalt suddenly spoke up. I am Zalt. Basler's face darkened. He immediately slammed the door shut. He opened it again menacingly. Zalt was sweating nervously. The eagle just came. This is information our squirrel should know. How dare he call Selwyn a squirrel? Zalt must have a death wish. Balar was just about to scold Zalt when unexpectedly, Selwyn peeked out from behind him. Good morning, Zalt. Seeing his savior, Zalt quickly returned the greeting. Balar stood to the side, his face as sour as death. You two probably have a lot to talk about. Zalt, come in and sit down. Zalt said it was fine, but still tried to step inside. He was blocked by Basler's arm. We're done talking. Balar feigned ignorance and closed the door. Selwyn was a little anxious. I need to go out for a bit. The luggage isn't sorted yet. We'll go out later. Also this, Balar handed a file to Selwyn. Selwyn took it and saw it was information about the real Selwyn. She looked at Balar puzzled. Didn't you lose your memory? I thought finding this might help you get your memory back. Ben, do you want me to get my memory back? I don't mind either way. You're going to live with me in the north anyway. The past and all that isn't important to me. But I thought you might need these records. To be honest, in his heart, Balar hoped Selwyn would remain amnesiac. If she regained her memory, he was terrified she would suddenly miss her hometown and leave him. Hearing this answer, Selwyn breathed a sigh of relief. However, when her gaze drifted to a line in the file, loves to drink wine from the Lafon region, she found herself naturally denying it. She was instantly stunned by her own action, because something similar seemed to have happened before. In her memory, a man was always telling her she could only drink that wine, and his tone was unfriendly, repeating it over and over. A secretly dead memory suddenly awakened. Her father's stern instructions echoed in Yumei's ears. But was that really the original Selwyn's memory? The papers in Yumei's hands scattered to the floor. Balar nervously reached out to her. Coming to this world, Yumei had never thought about where the original Selwyn went. But the fact was, she had indeed taken her body and inherited her future life and husband. The memory, surfacing in her mind, scared Yumei a little. If the original Selwyn was still in this body, that would be terrible. Balar watched his wife uneasily. Are you alright? Yumei's mood suddenly became strange. He suspected it was related to those documents. Although there was nothing particularly special in them, they weren't his wife's real life after all. Balar quickly realized it was perhaps because of the identity issue. Balar, Yumei looked at him with a nervous gaze. Do you think I'm pretty? Yes, very pretty. Hearing this answer, Yumei said nothing. Her mood was very low. She pulled Basler's hand away. Balar was starting to question his life. Did he say the wrong thing? She was clearly happy just now, but now her attitude suddenly changed. I really want to give her the answer she wants. Maybe that will make her feel a little better. I was planning to go to the market. Do you want to come? Balar took the initiative to invite his little wife shopping. Yumei looked at him with a very nervous expression. She thought he would refuse, but he was different from usual. She suddenly reached out and took Basler's hand. Let's go. Yumei really had no resistance to this man. She clearly knew he wasn't good to her just because of her looks. But that damned possessiveness still made her ask such a silly question. Speaking of appearances, Yumei felt melancholic. After all, this body was not her original appearance. She was extremely jealous that Selwyn was so beautiful. But because she was occupying someone else's body, her guilt was greater than her jealousy. If her own soul were to dissipate in the future, and Balar didn't notice anything different, to be honest, Yumei would be very sad. But the moment the man reached out his hand to her, all her anxieties vanished. This handsome man, just to make her feel better, would always awkwardly try to read her mood and please her. Yume also figured it out. As for the future, she would think about it later. She wanted to enjoy the present. She understood her own heart very well. The one she liked now was Balar. She must have a proper romance with this man. Yume looked at Balar with a determined gaze, her body suddenly pressing tightly against the man. But what were we going to do in the city? Balar felt both sweet and pained. He didn't know what to do in the city either. But because he couldn't bear to see his little wife looking listless, he had made up an excuse. Yume looked at Balar with an expectant gaze. Since we're living in the same bedroom now, I thought we could buy a rug according to your taste. Realizing his words were inconsistent, Balar instantly panicked. He was nervous that his little wife would notice and another misunderstanding would arise. Good idea. I was thinking of buying a few more. But Yume happily agreed. However, just a few minutes after arriving at the market, they ran into his sister, Zania. Basler's mood sank again. His little wife happily greeted her. Seeing his sister made her so excited and happy. This really angered the puppy. Zania found her brother's foolish look very amusing and mischievously decided to tease him. It's lunchtime right now. Shall we eat together? Of course, it would be my honor. At the dinner table, the puppy kept awkwardly putting food on his little wife's plate. According to his observations, his little wife had always had a very small appetite. Although she couldn't eat much, she was a true food lover. So, eating together was an opportunity to increase her favorability. I'm already full. You don't need to give me any more. Is it not to your liking? Zania speechlessly looked at her idiotic brother. Her big, straight-laced brother. In Saluin's eyes, Basler's affection for her was only slight. His attentiveness now was only because of his status as her husband. He was so restless. Try to read others' expressions. Zania decided to give this foolish couple a good helping hand. Balar, I've been thinking, why don't you address your wife properly? You had a political marriage, so I can understand if it feels awkward. But when you act like that, I'll think the adults in the family didn't teach you properly. So from now on, address Saluin as wife. Hearing the word wife, Basler's face instantly turned bright red.